right. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right. So I'll jump right into this. Radical code, by the way. Uh, so are men treated like shit in society? This is the question. Unequivocally, the answer is yes. Before I get into all the reasons that's true, let me tell you what my opponents will argue, which can be only one of two things. It'll either be A, yes, men are treated like crap in society, but that's due to men being in charge. And it's secretly the patriarchy, which is instilling an oppressive system designed to treat men poorly. And so we should all be feminists so that men get treated better. Or option two, yes, but they deserve it because they were oppressive to the poor women's for 200 billion years and they're getting their just comeuppance. Ultimately, though, I think they will concede in the opening, thus maintaining our 100% perfect tally on modern day debate of our opponents conceding the position before the debate even starts. So, where to begin? Let's start with women pretending to be minorities, even though they are actually a majority. Yes, friends, women outnumber men, yet somehow still have done a bait and switch where they pretend they are somehow a minority who deserves to be protected from what you ask, basically from men hurting their fifis. Yes, be nice is the creed of the modern woman. Women get lighter prison sentences for the same crimes, are favored in divorces. They initiate most divorces, even though they are still favored in them. Schools are tailored to their needs, which is why they do better academically. The list goes on and on and on, and we have an exhaustive list of stats with us. Let me also remind everybody that men not only are totally benevolent and don't deserve the scathing wrath of horrible harping women treating us all horribly because they are entitled snotty brats, but I can demonstrate this benevolency of men using the Thanos technique. If men decided with a snap of their fingers tomorrow that all women were to be enslaved, then they would be. All they could really do is whine a lot and beg and plead, and that's about it. However, if women decided men were to be enslaved tomorrow, we would scoff, and again, all they could do is whine and complain. The reason women are allowed to get away with their shitty behavior is because of simps who enable them to do so. They do this in hopes a woman somewhere will breed with them, but they won't because women are too busy, according to the stats, breeding with men who treat them like something they scraped off the corner of the mouth this morning and threw it in a trash can. Men's benevolent and good nature can't be overstated. All of society is run due to us being awesome. And we do all of this despite incessant complaining from women who mostly hold office jobs, are waitresses, and fill up the service industry in general because a real job would literally kill them. We do all of this for all of society, and we're treated like rapists, orchestrators of violence, evildoers, and generally taught that masculinity in and of itself is a trait to be mocked and scorned rather than adhered to. It's a disgusting society we live in that holds these virtues, and we're here tonight to prove that, of course, men are treated horribly, like garbage. Nobody cares about men, not even other men. The expectation of society is that men fix their own problems and everybody else's too, chiefly women's, and that's my opening. Thank you.
All right, so I guess it's my turn. Some of you guys in the chat theorized that maybe Andrew was being facetious. I can assure you that he is not. That's just his style. He's very straightforward. I'm going to completely agree with him, and not only agree with him, but back his play here. I did write a book on the subject as well, not to like flex on you guys. But what Andrew said is true. And where this comes from is that prior to women's liberation, we had a balance of power where men had the monopoly on force, women had the monopoly on reproduction. Women were the gatekeepers of reproduction. Each of you watching this has twice as many female ancestors as you do male ancestors. Women, all they have to do to be able to reproduce is be female and be fertile. Men, in order to reproduce, historically have had to fight their way up the hierarchy. They've had to have resources. They've had to prove themselves good providers, good protectors. things of that nature. And what happened when we did the whole female liberation shtick was that we flipped the balance of power. So now women not only have a monopoly on reproductive power, but they also have political power, they have financial power, and they have social power. So now we have 3.5 times more men committing suicide than women. We have, like Andrew said, much stiffer, harsher sentences that men receive for the exact same crimes as women. We have young boys who don't do well in school. Public school systems are completely skewed in favor of girls and girls' behavior, and boys are expected to behave like girls. This is mostly due to the fact that about 90% of school teachers in K through 12 schools are women. And now college degrees are about 77% of them are earned by women. So women have social power, they have financial power. About 80% of every consumer dollar in the United States is controlled by women. So all the marketing is geared toward women, all the entertainment is geared toward women. The highest earning entertainer of 2020 was Kylie Jenner. She doubled the next closest man on the list, who was Kanye West. Women have tremendous amounts of power, and men have almost none. The family court system is skewed very much in favor of women, although that's changing a little bit because there are some good men's activism groups working on that. It's pretty indisputable that women are worshipped and praised and treated with a lot of bias, and men are kind of treated as expendable and like they can just be thrown away. And the reason for this is because now we have an industrial technological society that gives us this false illusion that women can do everything men can do. However, the average CEO boss bitch gets up in the morning in her condo or her apartment or her house that was designed and built by a man. She gets in her car that was designed and built by a man. She drives to her office building that was designed and built by a man on roads that were designed and built by men. And if she gets to her corner office and her computer doesn't work, she calls a man and he comes and fixes it. And then she uses a program at work that she was trained to use that was designed by men, most likely, to do whatever job it is that she does. And as Andrew said, if you look at the careers of women in this country from 1920 to 2020, that's a 100-year span. They're almost exactly the same. The only thing is we swapped farm labor for HR work, basically. And the rest is secretaries, daycare workers, nurses, administrative assistants, cooks, waitresses, things of that nature. So it's really like an illusion of female power without anything to back it up. The only reason this exists is because men allow it. And the only reason men allow it is because they felt like the sexual revolution was a good deal for them. Turns out that unattached sex with no responsibility is actually quite a huge liability for men and not something that was in their favor. So I think we have a pretty good case here, and I'm interested to see what the other side has to say.
Thank you so very much for both of our interlocutors on the affirmative side. Sounds like a cat. And with that, we are going to hand it over to the negative side. The floor is all yours.
Ryan, did you want to start us off?
Sure. So I guess I'll start out. I did think it was interesting at the outset that it was, when we were asked to do this debate, that it was kind of implicit that we would take the no position. I don't have a solid answer on this question. I don't really know entirely yet how to engage with the question. I wrote down a bunch of notes during that. So we'll walk through this. I think the first question I have is like, which men are we talking about, and by whom are they underappreciated? I would say that like it depends on the context a lot. Like we could argue in a lot of cases that men are underappreciated by other men. We can argue they are underappreciated by, but like this whole like gender warfare thing is really boring to me. So I'd like to be like way more specific when we're talking about these things. Maybe we can kind of hammer a lot of that down as we go through. That's kind of my biggest my biggest point of contention with like the whole framing here. Last time I was on, I did challenge James to a debate about whether or not modern day debate is actually a neutral platform. So maybe eventually I can follow up with that. Because I think it's interesting that Andrew says, oh, they always concede the point or whatever. I think last time something like that happened. But I think maybe the framing of the questions might have something to do with why it's so easy for Andrew. It's kind of a vacuous question, really. Are men underappreciated? Like, we just have to be way more specific about this. Underappreciated in what ways? By whom? All of these are really big. Like, it's just without answering these questions, we can't even begin to have the conversation. So I guess that's really where I'd like to start going. But I'll let Ashley give her perspective on things for now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I was kind of amused when Andrew said, "Oh, they're going to concede before it even starts," because, like you, I was just sent an email asking if I wanted to debate are men underappreciated. And the funny thing is that a majority of my content is about how men are underappreciated in a lot of these ways. But if I'm going to argue any points, I would say, yes, you are right, Rachel. Men's suicide rates, successful suicide rates, much higher than women. But if you look at it statistically, the same statistics you're looking at, it's actually suicide attempts and thoughts of suicide are predominantly female. It's just method of suicide. Men tend to do suicide by hanging, carbon monoxide poisoning, or firearms, while women tend to go for like medication. They over medicate to try to off themselves. And the thing with that is that you're more likely to be found before the suicide attempt has been successful, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. So just to clarify that little point, but it is interesting. It is interesting. Also, the highest rate of suicides, it would be in America anyways, would be what was it, Ryan? I said middle-aged white males.
Yeah, middle-aged white men.
Yeah, middle-aged white males. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting, you guys were talking about the schools, right? And how education is catered primarily towards females. I don't know how much I agree with catered towards females, but I do know that the rates of female college graduates are well outnumbering male college graduates, that I'll agree with you on. Another interesting statistic I looked up earlier was like, I think, what was it, in the span in 1 year from like 2021 to 2022, female CEOs went from like 17% up to 30% in 1 year. Because that was a point I brought up to Ryan. I said, I wonder if that number is going to change, in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. If we're having more female college graduates than males, then wouldn't one assume we'd have more, female CEOs in the future than male. So that's another interesting thing. And then one thing you said, Rachel, that I can agree with, but maybe we'll have a slightly different opinion on, even though we agree, but kind of different, is that you were saying that, I kind of like the way you worded it, actually, like, who would guess, unattached, just sex, without any consequences, like, wouldn't be good for you. I will agree with you that I think that the traditional role of family, husband, wife, son, daughter, etc., has kind of, I don't know if it's gone out the window, but it's definitely largely perverted, one might say, from what it used to be, for lack of a better adjective maybe to use there. But I also think that, like, one thing Andrew said too, like, it's breeding this kind of culture of simps, the beta simp male that's trying to like sniff after the girl and chase after her to hopefully get some poonan, he may or may not. That's interesting to me too. It's almost one of the questions like we want to ask, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean? So like when you take sex completely out of the equation, it just makes me wonder, like, I guess the only benefit then would be for marriage would be children, maybe financial stability, maybe taxes, but so many people, especially women now, are able to just either not have kids at all, have surrogate mothers, adopt. That's a thing that a lot of people are doing. It's just becoming more and more popular for same-sex couples to have surrogate parents. And so, yeah, I kind of agree and disagree, and the way I disagree is that, like, is that lack of power, sex equals power, is that lack of power kind of also turning a lot of men angry, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but like, I feel like a lot of this modern day, feminism, the purple haired, crazy Twitter feminists, like, I think that it's breeding this culture, like you would say, it's making good men somewhat bad, and it's making bad men somewhat dangerous. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. But anyways, I hope I kind of clarified some of my points of view.
Thank you so very much for the negative side. And with that, we are going to go into about 50 minutes to an hour of open conversation. The floor is yours, panel.
All right. I just want to first point out that, as Andrew predicted, they conceded pretty much right out of the gate. They kind
I
of
definitely
said,
didn't concede anything.
Okay. Look, if you can't suss out your position in a debate when it's proposed to you, you don't get to come on and then look weak and say, well, I didn't know and I didn't understand and I feel like it wasn't explained to me, right? So
can we skip the theatrics and just talk about the issue at hand?
No,
like,
it's not theatrics.
It is.
You don't get to cope in your opening statement, radical coper, and get away with it. I'm going to call you on it.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. You can do that later. But so to the point, the first point was minority bringing to the majority. Right?
You didn't even have a position, really. It was just like, well, we kind of agree, but maybe we disagree, and I don't know.
I'm open. You guys might change my mind.
And I just want to let everyone be able to hear both sides. So, Rachel, it sounded like you were about to say something, and then radical coder, it sounded like you had an idea right after that.
Keep your ADHD under control while she talks.
I'll try, Andrew.
So Ashley pointed out something, which is that yes, men are much more successful in suicide attempts, and that's because they mean it, and women tend to do it out of like this cry for attention stuff, which kind of gets to what we're talking about here, which is women have become very adept at emotional manipulation, social manipulation. And attention is women's currency. So that the reason there's a gap in suicide there is because women don't really mean it. They're crazy, but they don't want to die. They just want you to pay attention to them. Men feel like there's no point. Like, why build the modern world? Why build the entire modern world and then get shit on? So
all right.
That's why men actually kill themselves.
Yeah, can you respond to one other thing that I just want to bring up real quick?
Can we do like 1 point at a time, I guess?
Yeah. You can respond to this one too.
Well,
sure.
It's tied in.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Andrew, can you just hold? I'll make sure that it goes back to you, but then Radical Coder, make a point, but then I want to make sure it actually goes right back to Andrew, of all people, because he was about to say something.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of a cute story about like the way that suicide rates play out. I think in reality, what we're really talking about is what the term is like fatal suicidal behavior versus non-fatal suicidal behavior. And women are extremely overrepresented in non-fatal suicidal behavior, and men are overrepresented in fatal suicidal behavior. And I think it's really, honestly, kind of like sociopathic to just allude that all these women who are basically like engaging in suicidal behavior, regardless of whether it's fatal or non-fatal, are just doing it for attention seeking. I don't know that you have any good reason to believe that.
So they're just bad at it. They're just bad at it. Then
they're just not as good as
they're just
men.
not as good as men at doing it. Then
chill. First of all, I think Ashley mentioned one thing that the methods that they're using tend to take longer, and so
they're
they tend
bad
to be caught.
So I
mean, you can call it that, but I don't like. This is why I don't even agree with
the patriarchy wins again.
Yeah, every time the women are so terrible at committing suicide, they can't even do it.
Again, it's very cute when you guys talk about people killing themselves, and it's all big memes for you guys. But for those of us who actually care about when people kill themselves, we actually want to care about like what's actually going on,
virtue
right?
signal more.
Yeah, virtue. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again,
by the way,
care about
let me ask you. Let me ask you another.
That's fine.
Let me ask you another question.
Finish my point.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
Right. Okay. So I think it's irresponsible to talk about the terms like successful suicide rate. I think that phrase already adds a lot of intent to someone engaging in fatal suicidal behavior. I mean, we can leave it there, but I think it's kind of cringe to just paint the story that like women actually don't want to die when they engage in suicidal behavior, especially women who do end up dying from that suicidal behavior. So I don't know.
So you had nothing. So you had nothing
for that other than like painting women as
nothing useful to add.
Silly.
We're
Right,
very
no-
mean.
Yeah, you had
Let's
nothing.
just
I agree.
Hang on,
establish at the
hang on.
beginning that
That's
we
not
are
the point,
very
but
mean.
yeah, I
Hang on,
agree.
hang on.
We're the mean
Radical
side.
Coder, you literally didn't add anything to it. There was no reason for
Okay.
you to even
I
keep
disagree.
going. And by the
I
way,
think I offered a better way to think
let
about
me
these
ask
things.
you. Let me ask you this question, and I'm not going to. I'm keen on spotting passive aggressive behavior, and I
That's cute.
noticed you rolling in, and you were alluding to the fact that you seem to think that there was a conspiracy between ourselves and James
Oh, no,
with
not at
this
all.
topic. No. You tied this in
I don't think it's
specifically.
conspiracy.
Hang on.
Just to
Let
be
me
clear.
finish. Let me finish,
Okay.
Coder.
I'm just
You
answering.
tie it in specifically right at the beginning of the intro and say, I wanted to debate James on whether or not he has a neutral platform.
Still do.
And then you went on to state that the way that this topic was framed was in some way designed specifically so that we could come in with a win-own. We just knew that we would do that because who we're debating. But I want to know, you specifically don't actually believe that myself, my wife, and James Kuntz of Modern Day Debate conspired to
No, of
create a
course not.
topic
That's
just
silly.
to humiliate you, right?
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to humiliate me, but no, I don't think that. I think
Well,
that's
I don't
silly.
need to. You do that to yourself. Okay,
I
I
know you
just
think
wanted to
that.
clear that up. I just wanted to clear that up because it's
Okay.
insane.
Do you want to
But
engage with
that's the way that
Okay.
you I just want to know that that's how it sounded.
Can we talk about the topic? Or
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it, are you
but
just
I'm not going to let you get away with passive aggressive
Okay.
behavior.
Well, I mean, I'm
So-
going to be very passive aggressive this whole time. so-
Yeah, I know you
Speaking of
already are. We know.
Aggressive.
Yeah,
Andrew,
right.
could you go ahead and define then whenever Ryan made his opening statement, he wanted either you or Rachel to kind of define what you believe exactly is going on as far as what men are we talking about that are being undervalued and underappreciated, like, and by whom?
So generally speaking, the way that we would frame this is that it's tiered in the levels of which men are the most ostracized in society, but mostly all men are affected by this. Generally, working class men seemingly get it the worst. If you're not in the top 5%, you get it even worse than that. Societal expectations, especially from
I think
women.
that's with every gender, though. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, the top 5% of anything is going to get anything less bad. I'm just specifically
You
whenever
can't.
this
So
topic gets
so
brought
Ashley,
up,
you can't
though.
ask me to define it, and then in the
Right,
middle of
I'm
my
sorry, let me
definition, you
clarify.
stop me
Let
like.
clarify. My apologies. Let me clarify. So when I say that, like if you specifically thinking of this subject right now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, and who do you feel is the
White
most
men.
affected?
White men are the most for sure.
Okay. That's-
By no other metric can I state this more emphatically that what would generally be considered in public consciousness and public thought, a white man is the most discriminated against person inside of the United States, period.
Bold claim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you have a defense against it?
Not yet. No, we're going to
No,
have to
I
break it
didn't.
down
I
more,
didn't.
right?
I didn't think so. So here's the thing, Ashley. Here's why. For one thing, again, you and I think you guys would both have to agree with this, that women have decided to include themselves as a minority group. They are fighting for a type of group rights, and it's framed as them being a minority, even though they're not an actual minority, they're a majority. So what they do is they do additional demographic breakdowns, right? So then it's woman plus black, woman plus gay, woman plus this, but the woman adds to the victimhood card. This is how this is done. It's in tiers, and it's social tiers designed to break these groups down. And you can actually watch the counter discrimination all the way back to white male.
Sure. So to that point specifically,
I just like that victimhood mentality. I'll agree with you that like anytime that I ever do see anything like, especially on social media or in the news, even when it is a man being targeted, I mean, what is the common saying that all the feminists and any other subgroup have right now, right? Is that it's a cis white male. So I can agree with you on that.
So I mean, again, we're kind of in agreement here. As we break these things down, everything is designated a victim group. This is actually part of critical race theory, in my opinion.
Which is based.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's based. But as we break these down, for instance, if you're a white man, for instance, who becomes trans, suddenly you get the victim card, which helps move you into that portion of victim society. Same thing with if you're a woman and you're a white woman, you're less oppressed than a black woman, but you're still a woman, so you're at least a little bit oppressed. Hang on. So I'm just kind of walking you through the victim Olympics here.
But are you insinuating? that white men are purposely becoming transgendered so that they aren't as prejudiced against?
Well, I think that there's something to be said for the fact, and I'm not just insinuating it, but I would actually push this as a part of a larger argument that yes, unsuccessful, especially middle-aged men, rather than blow their brains out, seem to prefer to move towards transitioning. They seem to get the attention that they want, especially on TikTok, places like this, and the victim mentality seems to work pretty well for them. Yeah.
What data are you basing that off of?
I'm just basing this off of observation. It would be
Your
part of a large. Hang on. It would be part of a larger argument. It's not a singular argument by itself. You asked my opinion on it specifically, so I gave it.
Yeah, I was just curious what you're basing that off of. I really honestly don't know.
Well, I could actually help substantiate that. I wrote a piece that's on my Substack, rwilson.substack.com, about programs that are intended to help men transition. They are hypno pornography programs that are highly suspicious, very well produced. Nobody knows who's making them. Probably the most popular one is called Bambi Sleep. And this is, they get you into the program via like trans porn and things like that.
Called hypnosissification.
Yeah, hypnosissification. And it indoctrinates the male listener with the idea that if they are addicted to porn, they're watching this stuff, they are unsuccessful as men, they would be better off as women because then at least they would get attention, they would get sex, they would be in demand, they would be wanted by someone, and then it further and further integrates the listener into this program, and it's meant to help transition them into being a woman. It's very insidious, very nefarious stuff, but these exist. They're out there.
Sure.
And
so if I can start there, I guess the idea that like becoming a trans woman is like a solution for these men to like finally like be like find themselves in a better position in society. I don't know if that really makes that much sense.
It's not really about
maybe
that would be that would
maybe
be your argument. You would
I can't even say a sentence.
that.
I can't even say a fucking sentence. So like why do I even start?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'm gonna pull you both apart so I can hear Radical Coder and Andrew, which means Radical Coder, make your statement, and then Andrew, you're next.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I don't really buy this narrative that trans women are transitioning like just for the sake of so that they can find themselves in a slightly better position in society. It seems like trans women get treated pretty badly throughout society. I think that's pretty clear, honestly. If you're on the internet for even more than a few minutes, or if you are aware of like the stats around trans people and their suicide rates and all sorts of other things, the way they're discriminated against is pretty common. I did want to speak really quick to the critical race theory thing. Just to be clear, all critical race theory says is that race is not a biological category, which is just a kind of a scientific fact. So if you have a problem with that, I mean, that's you can take that up with the race realists, like what's that guy who's coming on? He's in the little patch here, whatever. Finally, to the point about like the minority pretending to be a majority or majority pretending to be a minority, it's kind of a word game here. Minority in this context is not literally the number of people is less than the other group of people. It's more about being minoritized, right? Which is more of being put in a subordinate position in society. Which I think it's interesting that at one point Andrew made the point that if men really wanted to, we could just enslave all the women. And so, like, I think that, like, the fact that he feels so confident stating something so insidious and insane is maybe speaks to
so let's back up. Let's
a value
back up.
system that puts women in subordinate positions.
Let's walk through. Hang on.
Okay.
Let's walk through these. Is an ought.
What?
Is an ought.
I don't. Why are you asking me this? Can you just get to the point?
I need you to answer my
question.
No, you
don't. No, just respond, dude.
No, you just answer my
question.
So
stupid. Really, just respond, please.
Is an ought.
I don't know. I don't even know what you mean. I've never heard of philosophy.
Okay, so is an ought.
I don't know. Why don't you just say your point? Why are you doing this weird, like, Socratic
I need
bullshit?
to ask you. No,
you don't. Just say what you want to say. No one's making
because
you do
it's
this.
baked into what you're
So
saying. I
fucking
can't
stupid,
deconstruct it. I can't deconstruct your argument if you don't answer questions. Can you do that or not?
I can't. So you have to say your point.
Okay, if you can't answer questions, then there's no point in debating.
Well, you can leave if you want.
No, you would have to leave.
I don't have to do shit.
I'm asking you the question.
Just say your point, dude.
I've said my point. Is an ought.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
you can say I don't know.
Okay,
Just
so we can
say
move
just
on.
say
So I
you
can
don't
move on to
know.
the next point. We talked about lighter sentencing,
You can
initiating
do. You
divorce.
move on to
That's what I
whatever
can
you
move on
want.
to?
I can't believe
Okay.
you want to answer the question.
I don't know why. Why don't you just say your point that you're getting at? Like, why do you have to do this weird
Ryan,
game?
this is a debate.
Oh my God!
It's
a
debate doesn't
debate.
mean
It
Ryan.
includes
Is
logic.
an ought? Ryan,
It seems like a leading
how many
question and
sides
it's
does
not
a
a
square
real
have? Like, I just
Then,
don't.
mean,
then
it's so
if you know the
stupid.
answers to those questions, answer them.
It seems like kind
I'm
of
good.
like you're just trying to play word games.
Well,
and have,
It's not word
no.
games.
It's not a word
Semantics
game.
in a
it
debate.
does.
Semantics in a debate specifically are very important. I need to know, since he's making is statements and then he's saying that I'm using them as ought statements, that he knows the difference between an is and an
specify
ought.
the example where I did
Yes,
that?
you said
Okay.
that I say because it is the case that men could snap their fingers and therefore women would be enslaved if they did, that means it ought be done. I didn't actually say
no,
it
I
ought
didn't
be
mean
done.
that.
Yes,
No,
but that's
if I
what you
said that. I don't
Ryan,
think I said that.
Ryan,
but I'm
that's
sorry
what
if I
you
did.
that's
I
what
take
you
that back.
said.
You
Right?
No,
literally
it was more the implication of such a
Good.
statement.
No,
Yeah.
no. You said that this is an insane position that I came up with, but I didn't have a position. I gave you an is, correct?
No, you actually said that if men could, they would.
No, I
he
didn't
No,
said
he said
it.
they
No,
could.
he
He said-
didn't.
he said they
He
could.
did not say that at all.
This is why it's important
said-
that I know that you guys know the difference between what is
Right.
and what ought be,
He
Ryan.
actually, by the way,
Okay,
he
well, I
actually
didn't. I wasn't
said,
saying that you think.
no,
that
wait
should
a
happen.
second.
Yeah,
I
I'm
have to
sorry.
clarify
Is
that
how it
because
came off to you?
he
You're
said
good.
they could, and the fact that they don't is a point in their corner that they are benevolent and that there is
Because they're
no
all cucks, right?
patriot. No, he's saying men could. Men have a monopoly on force. They could just enslave women if they wanted to with the snap of a finger, which is true, but they don't.
And
which
that doesn't
means they
mean
are
I
not
said they
evil.
ought to do it either, Ryan. So
No,
it's
yeah,
important.
I agree. And I agree
Never
we shouldn't
said that.
enslave
Right. So
women.
when you make those statements, it's important. Now,
Is that
as
during
to
his opening argument?
yeah, you can go back to the opening argument. See it
I
for
am.
yourself. I have it written right down. I can read it to you, the part that I'm
No,
talking
I want to
about.
actually play what you said. It's all good.
Go ahead and play it. But in any case, I did not prescribe that should be
I
done.
agree. I said that
Or
like 5 times
ought be
now.
done, anything
Mhm.
like this. Well, your partner seems to be confused. So then backing up and deconstructing this a little bit further, because it's important to do, I understand when you're talking about racial categorization not being biological categories. I have no use for that myself either. However, I'm alluding to your worldview of public consciousness. When we talk about white in the public consciousness, that does mean something. You would agree that that's true, right?
I'm sorry. I was reading something. I missed the last half. Something about white people, public consciousness. What's the point?
Look, if you're not going to even listen to the questions, if you're not going to engage,
I'm really asking you because I missed it. I'm genuinely. I'm not trying to be a meme here. Like, what was the point again?
I'm going to ask you one more time.
Yes,
I'm not
that's what I'm asking you.
alluding to a biological category with white, but I'm alluding to a public consciousness of what that means.
Sure. What about it?
And you would agree that there's a public perception of what white is, even if you don't think it's a biological category, right?
Yeah, of course. I think.
Okay,
it's a category. Of
so
people,
when
yeah.
I say that this categorization that people often reference and think of outside of biology, but within a social construction, being the most oppressed in society, and I make my case by saying that they have no minority status, you say, and your claim is that minority is semantics and doesn't actually mean less than. Rather, it means minoritize. What does that mean, minoritize?
Minoritized means to make a person or group subordinate in status to a more dominant group or its members.
Okay, so this would mean that you could have a majority, but still be minoritized by
of
an
course.
actual physical minority, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and that's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
think white people are.
That's what I'm
but
saying is happening to whites right now, is that
Yep.
they're being minoritized,
I know
even
you're
though they're
saying that.
in the majority.
You said if men decided tomorrow that with the snap of a finger that women could be enslaved, then they would be. And all women could do about it would be to whine and cry and complain.
And
Yes,
you're
that's true.
that's an is
He
statement.
didn't say they
Hang on,
should do
Ashley.
that.
Ashley, is
He
that an
didn't
odd
say they
statement?
should.
Is
I
that
think
an
a lot of-
odd
if they
I
statement?
think a
could,
lot
then
of
they-
men do want to do that, but they can't.
Wait,
because
no,
other
no,
men don't
stop,
want to.
No,
stop,
no,
stop.
no, you're wrong.
I want to
Okay.
know the answer to this question, Ashley. Is that an is statement or an ought statement? Did I say that ought to happen, or do I say that is
You
what is?
implied that it ought to because you implied
You
that
did
men
not
would.
imply that.
I believe that you did.
You are
You
I don't think
believe I
attaching
you
did.
can hold
that.
the dialogue.
Yeah, I
I
believe
think
you.
you're attaching a lot of shit.
This is the problem
You
with
literally
debating
said-
with people that don't know logic. They don't have any basis in philosophy. They don't
I have a
understand
computer
the,
science
the
degree. My
difference
degree's in
between
facts
an
and logic,
is
dog.
claim and an ought claim.
Well, then why
said
didn't you answer a
this is
basic
the case.
question?
He didn't say
it was
that
stupid.
men ought
If
to.
ifs and buts were candies and nuts, Rachel might be a more pleasant person.
Right. So can we again?
This is
Can we
not
talk about the topic?
This is not a
Ah.
pleasantness contest. I hate to break this to you. This is not a popularity contest.
If
It's
it
not
were,
a
you'd
contest of
lose.
who's nicer.
Exactly.
This is a debate. If
And
you can't debate, get the hell off the show.
And on that,
Rachel,
I'm pulling
you
everybody apart. Pulling everybody apart. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
enthusiasm and enjoy the spice. Gonna send love out there. Keep on sending in questions. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. But with that, we're gonna hand it off to one person. Ashley, you just put up your finger, and thus you are the next speaker.
I do believe that I get the sentiment of what you are saying, but I do believe also, Andrew, that that's wordplay, and I think that you know it. I think it's a manipulative tactic to use. When you said, if the Thanos technique, right? Like if tomorrow men could snap their fingers and all women...
They can.
I'm talking.
I thought that's nice. I'm talking too. Is that amazing?
We know that's the problem.
Do you know how a debate works, Andrew? The moderator gave me the floor. If you can't handle it, then get out.
Yeah, but that's just showing more preference, and shit proves that men are treated like shit.
I'm just
Andrew's
saying
the most
that
suppressed.
Instantly
exactly.
picking a woman's side, of course, but go ahead. Go ahead. Give us your fluff, illogical bullshit that I can respond to. I'll wait.
Oh, well, that's so kind of you. Thank
It
you.
is because I'm benevolent. I told you.
If tomorrow men could use the Thanos technique and snap their fingers and all women would be enslaved, could be enslaved, pardon me, then they would be. Does that not sound to you? Does that not sound to any logical person, Rachel, that if they could, then they would?
Well,
Does
then
it not
why
sound
don't
like that?
they? Why haven't they? He's just saying they
Because
could,
that's not
but
a fucking
Ashley,
possibility, you
for
twat.
the love of
Well,
God,
it's not what you mean.
think.
Wait.
Just-
Are you saying that there's not civilizations right this second where men haven't snapped their fingers and women are completely dominated and subservient to them?
I'm saying that Thanos is from a comic book, and that is a surreal...
Oh, really? Is he? I didn't know that. Tell me more things I don't know, Ashley.
Okay, I can probably do that, to be quite honest. I
I'm
just
saying,
think that
no.
your technique is to play word games, and it's just
No,
incredibly
that's
silly.
not word games. Try to pay
okay.
attention. Let me explain it to you. He's saying if men were the evil bastards that the evil patriarchy that they're painted to be, they would enslave women tomorrow because they can. They can,
Do you
but
understand?
they don't.
Right? Do you
And the
understand?
fact that they don't.
Was my point
No,
of view
the
was
fact
I
that they
understand
let me finish. The
You
fact
never
that
let
they
me
don't-
finish. You never
the
fucking let me
fact
finish.
that they
I said my
don't
point of view
prove
is that I
that
think
men
I
are not that
understand
way.
the sentiment, Rachel, but that's not the way it was interpreted.
It
Jesus
doesn't
fucking
We are
matter.
going to
It's
pull.
what he actually said.
I'm gonna pull both apart, and it sounded like Rachel, you were finishing something, so I'm gonna
Yes.
give it to you, and then I'll give it back to you, Ashley.
Yes. What Andrew actually said, I don't care what you're inferring or how it made you feel. What he actually said was if men wanted to be the tyrants that they're painted as, they could do it tomorrow, but they don't. They haven't, and they don't, and they're not going to, which
But
is
that's not
proof
what he
that they
actually
are, which is proof that they are benevolent, that they are not some kind of evil oppressors who just want to enslave us, because they have that ability, yet they don't do it. Now, we need to get back to the topic of the debate, and you two need to defend your position. So I would like to hear your argument as to why men are not ignored or discarded or treated unfairly. And please present an argument.
My argument is that it's men like your husband who represent a lot of these assholes, and it makes women hate all men. That's my argument. How you like them apples?
That's not an argument.
Whatever,
Wow.
you were pulling
Well,
it.
I actually think there is a
Wait.
point to that. If I can, I think there is something to that because I think a lot of the times when we talk about men,
like you.
so I think to
You're
be
mean.
clear,
It's true. Gross,
to be
dude.
clear about the question of the debate, it was about whether men are underappreciated compared to women, correct? That was how the email was
Yes.
framed.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that a lot of times, like in a lot of the contexts that I would agree that men are undervalued and underappreciated, it's by other men in a lot of ways, like by bosses, even by like family members and stuff, and by other men who perceive them as not living up to certain masculine ideals, and that they are shamed for these things.
Teammates, friends.
I mean, at the beginning of this debate, which by the way I'm not, but at the beginning of this debate, Andrew mocked me for supposedly being gay, which I think is because I embrace a lot of feminine characteristics, or from his perspective, I do, and he's shaming me for that. He's using that as an insult to me, right? He's shaming me for presenting in what he perceives as a feminine way, and he's saying not only am I doing that, but he's saying that's a bad thing. So I'd say that it's men like Ashley said, it's men like Andrew and men who are pushing other men down for presenting or expressing themselves in ways that he's uncomfortable with, who are really the ones who are undervaluing
higher. Why are they higher? Whether or not it has something to do with thoughts or who did it better or who did it worse, whatever. Why are they higher? Because mental health is discouraged in men. That's why. And who's doing that discouraging? Men like you, Andrew.
Yeah, again, other men, especially men like Andrew.
So back to me being the epitome of the evil patriarchy, which is oppressing everybody. Meanwhile, I have
things we never said.
Hang on. I have a solid whole family unit with multiple children and have been married successfully, I might add, for 16 years. Any track record of anybody else here who can say that? Anybody? Hands? Nobody. No, not a single person. The only stable male person who's here, the only stable person who has these male characteristics that I espouse and these virtues is the only one that has an actual stable family unit. Gave you guys an opportunity to say me too, but there is no me too, just me, right?
Sorry,
I think what it is, it's sheer jealousy, very upset. You're very unhappy. You're not very thrilled that you don't understand basic logic, and I called you out on it. But you still haven't actually given us what Rachel's asked for multiple times, which is an argument. Do you have an argument,
and
Ashley?
all you're saying is you're jealous. You're jealous.
Do you have an argument, Ashley?
I thought I did make an argument.
Yeah, actually, we presented an argument.
What's the argument?
Several.
What's the argument?
If I can clarify.
Yeah.
The argument that I was making just now was that in the because I wanted to be more specific about like which men by whom, I would say that in a lot of ways the men who are undervalued in society, they are undervalued and underappreciated not by like women as a gender, but by a lot of other men, and
let me
by
respond,
some women, but largely by other men.
Let me respond to that argument, and let me respond to that argument. Right. Mm-hmm. My response to the argument is that what you guys have tried to do is say I am responsible. It's men like me who are responsible for the oppression of people like you. So therefore, I'm trying. This is actually alludes to my point that you guys are as oppressive as possible to family dynamics in an actual patriarchal system. And this is why men are shutting down all over the place, because little wimps come in and say, you're being oppressive, you're being mean, you're being cruel.
You being a shitty person, bro.
What makes me a shitty person? What makes me a shitty person? Give me an argument about how I'm a shitty person. What's the argument for me being a bad person?
The one example that I used was that you alluded to the idea that I'm gay, and you also were using saying that like it was a bad thing.
You're gay.
Like, yeah, like it was literally the first thing you said. Like, but you were like,
Andrew
I know you were
mean is not an argument. Please stick to the topic and make an
argument. I know. So
I'm gonna pull you apart again. Radical.
It's not just about being mean. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Pull radical, and then it'll throw it over to the yes side.
I wasn't presenting
right. So
an argument. I think you
said radical. Are you radical, Andrew? I don't.
Did you want me to clarify the position or not?
No, I wanted to clarify my position. So
I already know your position.
Well, it doesn't seem like you do. So to be clear, my issue wasn't with you being mean. My issue was with the punchline of what you were being mean about. Right. So you were using my a lot of traits that I have that people perceive as feminine, and you were saying that these are bad things. You were insulting me. I don't feel insulted. To be clear, I don't care. Oh, I get called gay all the time. I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm a gay
sure you do.
Man,
I'm sure you do.
And I fucking rock it. All right. Okay. And I own that shit. And that's fine. But you were weaponizing it, and you were saying that I wasn't living up to your ideal of masculinity, and you're saying that's a bad thing. I think a lot of times this is the problem, because we see men who are shaming other men for not living up to some archetype of masculinity, and that when men find that they don't live up to these things, that they're not able to provide in the ways that they're, and which I provide just fine, but to the men who feel like they can't provide in the ways that they're expected to, this is where a lot of mental health crises come in, and they're also shamed for seeking help and expressing their emotions and all sorts of things by
radical coder. I'm gonna here's my counter argument to this ridiculous argument, by the way, which has no merit on anything. Just so you understand, I want to ask you a very basic question, see if you can answer it. Ashley over there, who hates me, thinking I'm a mean dick because I called you gay at the outset of this.
I also think you're a mean dick.
Because it was hilarious, by the way, and you have no sense of humor, and it was hilarious. if the building was burning down and she had to walk over to your 5'4" ass who weighs 125 pounds, or walk over to my 6', 180-pound person and say, please run in there and take my child out of the building, she wouldn't pick you, Coder. And
Andrew,
this
I weigh
is
10
why
pounds less than you, and we're the
this
same
is
height.
why you get shamed. The reason you get shamed for not living up to the expectation of masculinity is because we need masculine men to run society. That's why we need it.
Okay,
Just
I wait.
Well, who do you think, Coder, who do you think a woman would generally go to if they saw you with
Maybe
your
you.
gloves and
I
your
don't
pink
know.
hair, right?
I don't have.
Who do you
pink hair.
think?
But to be
No,
clear,
answer my
we're
question.
the same height.
I
We're the
don't
same
know.
height.
It just
and
says
I weigh like 10
I
pounds
don't
less
know.
than you. Yeah.
It just says I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
probably me.
It seems like you might be a little bit
I'm
more
really
nimble in
handsome.
that situation, Ryan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I move pretty quick. I can lift a little bit. Don't worry. I got you,
Okay,
Ashley.
but we're getting way off.
Lift
the
your pink
topic.
weights.
This was supposed to be a debate about whether or not men are treated badly.
I know. That's what we want to talk about, but you guys don't want to. You
I
go
do.
off on all
That's
these weird
exactly
tangents.
what I
Yeah.
want to talk about.
Okay, cool. Let's
So-
do it.
Yeah, so I outlined a ton of points in my opening, which neither of you have addressed. This is a common problem that I run
actually
into over
did. I
and over.
addressed several of your
Ashley,
points.
you've
With
been
numbers.
talking. It's my turn to talk.
You're aligned.
I've outlined several points that prove that men are actually at a disadvantage and are treated worse than women in society now, right? So you haven't answered to any of those, and this is a common problem I run into with people who don't understand what a debate is or how to do it. You are supposed to respond to my points. When I say, why are men getting 40% longer sentences than women for the exact same crime? Why are boys...
Because no one's disagreeing with you on that, dumbass.
Well, because they already conceded
We're
the
trying
debate.
to
At this
find
point, we're just
something that
naming
we're
on them.
So make an argument that proves
Why would I
that
argue
I'm
against
wrong.
something I fucking agree with?
Right.
Why
Do
are
you
you
understand how it
debating me?
Right.
If you agree with me, why are you here debating
Why
me?
don't you talk to the host about that?
No,
Not
you're
my
the
fault.
one who accepted
It's a conspiracy. It's a
and I was
conspiracy.
never
accepted the debate.
I assumed I was on the other side, bitch.
That's funny.
Oh,
Why
bitch.
wouldn't I?
Now I'm a bitch. See what I mean? That she's
You
so
are. You know,
incompetent that she can't. She
Emotionally,
can't actually-
hang on. You're emotionally unhinged, Ashley.
Yes.
You need to calm down.
If the
Ashley. Calm
patriarchy
down.
were
Own it.
still around, they would take care of women like Ashley and make them behave. So please, Ashley,
Well, if
Debate
it were
me.
still
But then who would
around,
buy your
you'd
book?
actually give your husband
Debate
a
me.
blowjob more often. He wouldn't be so wound up.
And I appreciate
okay?
the spice, but just gonna send a reminder that all of our lovely audience wants to hear each of your points, and so gonna hand it back to whoever would like to have the ball. But
Yeah,
then it's
so
going
I'd
back
like
to
to
them.
I'd like to take it from here. Interestingly enough, instantly Ashley goes right for the degenerate cut, right? The assumption being that I'm just so wound up from a lack of blowjobs.
I've
Ashley,
heard
is
you
this
say this
hang on.
before on stream.
Ashley? No, you
It's not an
haven't.
assumption.
What are
No.
you talking? You've never heard it once.
No,
Yes,
you've
I have.
never. He doesn't
I'll tell you
ever
what,
talk
I'll tell you
about
what.
that.
I'll make
did.
a
He did.
$500 bet with you right now, and
You
I'll
made
give
an
you 2
argument,
months.
Alex
2
from Playing with
months.
Fire stream that marriages often are sexless and that it's okay to have a sexless marriage.
No,
That-
he
You
did
are-
not.
Yes, he
What
did.
in the
Yes, he
world?
did.
No,
Even-
he
I
did
remember
not.
it
Hang on.
specifically.
Actually, we have
Listen,
5
hang on,
kids.
both of you.
When
both
I
of you.
found out
Listen,
you were his wife.
How do you think?
I
we
want
got
to. I just
5
want to. I
kids?
just want to let you know again. You still don't understand the difference between is
She's
and
so
odd.
threatened. She's got.
I
such
have
an
not.
inferiority
I have never
complex.
ever
Pathetic.
made such a statement. I just think it's hilarious that the first thing you go to how to make a man
Pathetic.
behave is to give them a blowjob. I think
Yeah,
that that's
He was talking
interesting
about
and
traditional-
hilarious. In fact, that
She
saying
doesn't
that
have
men would
anything
put me in my
upstairs. She
place?
has to try to use sexuality.
right. You
to
can
make
control
men.
that guy if you
You
use
have to
your
use
pussy.
physical abuse.
And
You're doing the same fucking thing.
if you would like
Pathetic.
Radical Coder or Ashley, I'll give you like another 30 more seconds, and then we'll go back over the yes side. Yep, you're good.
All right. So, Rachel, I said that in response to you talking about men physically abusing a woman in order to put her in her place. But you're going to sit
I
there
didn't
and
say
ask me,
physically.
you're-
When
oh,
did
but-
I say physical abuse?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I insinuating things again? You said and if
yes.
it's still the patriarchy, men would handle women like Ashley to put her in
Yeah.
her place.
You just would be socially shamed into not being a stupid, vapid, empty-headed bitch. who calls me a bitch because I am smart and know how to debate.
But I
And you've got
argue
nothing
against
up
calling
here.
bitch, and now I'm
You've
calling
got
you one.
nothing upstairs. You
And
don't.
so-
You shouldn't be here.
so
you
now
should
that we
be
are-
doing something else.
Now that we're even on ad hominems, I want to remind everyone just to attack the arguments and not the people.
Yes,
But
please.
Wait, moderator.
Please, an argument
Wait.
for the love of God.
but
Wait,
all of
those
their
weren't
links.
ad homs. They're not ad homs if they're truth claims. The truth
Exactly.
claim that Rachel's making is that Ashley's an empty-headed, stupid bitch. It's a truth claim.
And
It's
the
not
truth
an
claim
ad hom.
Is
That's not
that
how ad hom
Rachel
works. If
is
you
the
like-
I thought you were going to make a good
wife
point, but
What
who
any
doesn't
of
suck
our
husband's dick.
our interlocutors have had to say tonight, their links are in the description below. Just want to
Poor
send
Amy.
more love out there. Oh, I'm
Poor
having
Amy, I'm sorry.
not at all. I'm
Appreciate you.
enjoying the good conversation.
You are fun, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Sending it right back to all of you. And we still have a good 20-30 minutes of meat in here if we have questions for each other. And so it's right back over to you.
I really do want to actually debate the topic. So
Me
if you
too.
guys
So,
could present an
yeah.
argument for your side rather than just saying you agree with us, that would be awesome.
Well, to
Well-
be honest, Rachel, you guys have been nothing but, in the beginning, I thought it was okay, but you've come in my opinion, again, in bad faith. You're very but truly, you really are, Rachel. You're very condescending. And I felt like in the beginning, we were kind of having a conversation where we were trying to find some things that are kind of different that we don't agree on. And then you, specifically Andrew, literally go straight into ad hominem attacks. I'm not the one that went there. I'm not the one that went there.
You don't
And
even
then
know what
wants
it.
to argue semantics.
I'll tell you what.
well,
Ashley,
can I, after yeah,
what's
can I,
what? Ashley, let
maybe
me
pull
just ask
things
you a
back to
direct
a-
question. What do you think an ad hominem is?
It
When
doesn't
you
matter.
attack the person and not the argument, that's what I think it is.
That's not what it means.
Okay,
You want
it's
to tell
close
me
enough.
what
I
an?
think it's
Do
the
you want
point,
to tell
right?
me again what an ad hominem is? So, like,
I think
you can
ad
make
hominem
a disparaging comment about somebody if it's pertinent to your argument. Like, for instance, if Rachel says, and it's pertinent to say this, you're actually too stupid to have a debate with. That's pertinent to
I
her
think that
argument
when you
that you're
start
not smart
Okay,
enough to
cool.
debate. You see
That's
what
cute.
I'm saying?
That's
It's
not
very cute.
pertinent to this argument.
No,
So-
no,
so
no,
when we
it's
talk
pertinent
about-
to her argument. It's not
So
an
one of
ad
the
hom.
points
Andrew,
you guys
let
brought up
them
in the
try
beginning. One of
to
the points.
craft
One
an
of the points.
argument.
One of
I
the points.
want to see
one of
them
the
try
points-
to craft an
Oh, for fuck's
argument.
sake.
I do.
No, I
Go
don't.
ahead,
I really don't
Ryan.
think you do, honestly.
I do.
Okay, yeah, sure. So one of the points that was made is that masculinity is scorned in its totality. I really don't agree with this. I think that people conflate this a lot because we talk about things like toxic masculinity, which again is like very specific aspects of masculinity that are scorned, that are harmful both to men and the people around them. So I totally don't agree with this statement that masculinity is scorned. I think that like being strong, being providing for people around you and being supportive of the people around you, being a good father, things like this are absolutely not shamed in society. These things are absolutely praised in society, and for good reason, because these are positive things. So to suggest that masculinity in its totality is scorned, I think is a moot point, but maybe you disagree.
I also think that saying, I mean, I really had an issue with saying that middle-aged white males are legitimately purposely becoming transgendered in order to not be discriminated against so much. I thought that was an egregious statement to make.
Yeah.
And you had absolutely nothing but just your observations to back that
Sissy
up.
hypno porn, apparently.
Okay, well,
yeah.
let's,
I mean, we're
let's
the
go
ones
with what
without
Ryan
arguments.
said, because Ryan actually crafted an argument rather than complaining. So Ryan actually tried to make a point there, and I would like to address his point, which is that I would say, this is how I would push back on what you said, Ryan. If a man has an affair and leaves his wife and kids for another woman, he is universally panned and bashed as a piece of shit, a bad guy, a deadbeat dad. On the other hand, if a woman has an affair and leaves her family for someone else, the universal assumption is mostly like, well, yeah, she had to be happy. You know, there was probably something she was lacking, and we shouldn't judge her. We can't judge her because she had to be happy. You wouldn't want her to be unhappy. So how do we address this this different perception of like cheating and having an affair or leaving the family, breaking up the family? And women initiate at least 70% of all divorces. Among college educated women, that number is 90%. So how do we address that?
I disagree with you. I don't think women who cheat and leave their families are viewed that way at all. I think, in fact, often they're called whores, deserters. my mother did that to our family, and I never heard a good thing about that. I don't know where you're getting that. I know that your perception is your reality, and maybe that's been your reality. It has most certainly not been my reality. I don't understand where you're bringing that argument.
I will say,
she brought in the
hang on.
Single
stats.
moms
To
are
Rachel's point,
defended like
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, sure.
Single
to Rachel's
mom,
point,
but that's not the same as cheating and leaving your
70% of single moms are single by choice. They initiate
Okay.
the divorce.
But
they want
that
the
means
but
divorce.
you're conflating a lot of different things.
Because it's one of
You're
the
not claiming
primary
that
reasons
why.
they claim they got the
That's an
divorce
assumption.
is they were unfulfilled and
Yeah.
wanted to have sex with other men. That's
Yes.
why.
That's a
No,
good enough reason
It's
to get
not
divorced, right?
abuse. It's not abuse. That's a total misconception. If you look at all the
So,
surveys,
you're
why
just-
women choose
Yeah.
divorce, it's things like they're
Okay.
bored, they're unfulfilled, they don't feel appreciated, they want to find themselves, shit like that. Abuse is like number 6 or 7.
I'm not
lists.
trying
Still
to
a
be
lot, right?
I'm being legitimate because I really do want to know,
No,
like,
it's still
what
not a lot.
what studies or like statistics, like what source? What's your source for that part of it? And I'm genuinely curious because I've read a lot about it.
In my book, so there's a bunch of sources in my book. Chapter 10 is all about this, and I have maybe a dozen citations on this, but it's surveys that are conducted by law firms. It's the Department of Homeland Security, not Homeland Security, Department of Human Services that does this kind of statistical work. So it's government sources, it's legal firms. And then there's also been a couple of different studies done by like sociologists who study this kind of stuff. So
Gotcha. I was genuinely, thank you for answering. I was genuinely, and also in those studies, do they also specify that the woman cheated?
No, it's why it's usually just reasons women give for initiating divorce. And the normal assumption is, oh, there must be abuse, but that's usually really far down on the list. It's usually things like, oh, I'm unfulfilled.
Fulfillment, money, things
appreciated.
like this.
That I can
stuff like
agree
that.
with. I've read a lot of the same thing. And I find that to be very sad. I think that marriage in and of itself, I think that it's not what it used to be, and I think that it's too easy to quit, move on, and still get alimony and still get child support and still be able to be fulfilled. I agree with you on that.
Because they're treating women like shit, right?
In that sense, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree on that. I do. I'm not just here to be an asshole, but I genuinely was curious about.
That's good because I'm way better at that because I'm a man.
You are,
Okay.
But I was genuinely curious about the cheating thing, though, like because you did specifically say that like men cheat and they're almost praised for it or shamed for it, and they're almost praised.
So Mary, so here's
that's the part that I'm.
So let's dive into that part.
Sorry, but my personal experience,
I see women.
So just to give because we're working off of like observational evidence and experience and things like this. Let's dive into that a little bit. Don't you agree that married men tend to have more friends who are married, have children because their interests are more aligned? Same thing with single men and single women. They generally have single friends because their interests are more aligned. This is generally even polling will show this that
generally yes.
So generally speaking.
Yeah.
Inside these different arenas, if you're a single man, you're hanging out with single men, you cheat on a woman. So I would consider even girlfriend status to be single, unmarried, in other words.
Gotcha.
You're perceived very differently in those in-groups than you would be as a married man inside of married in-groups. So if you're married, you cheat as a man, the married in-groups you're a part of are much more likely to shame you than if you're a single man. That's what her point is. Just to kind of give you credence to your observational evidence there, right? Your in-group, the in-group that you're a part of is going to shame you differently.
Okay, so you're saying that in this scenario, the married woman and the married man, that the woman has, I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding you, in this scenario, that the woman has more single friends and the man has more married friends?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that the perception... So I think that what you're saying is that, the dude who cheats and gets the high five from other men, I'm saying his in-group is mostly going to be single, unmarried.
Okay,
men.
I got you.
And the in-group of the man who's going to be shamed for not taking care of his family or cheating on his wife, breaking his family up, this and that, is going to be more likely to be shamed by other married men.
So what about the woman then and what
so this is the interesting part because so many women initiate the divorces to begin with. They seem to have a much better support structure when it comes to things like cheating and horrible behaviors because most of their in-group are conducting the same behaviors and the men's in-group is not. in
those scenarios.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yes, I do.
So, I mean, would you even disagree with that? It makes
On
total
that,
sense.
I don't disagree. I
Right.
think that you're surrounding yourself with a certain type of person living a certain type of lifestyle. It does tend to rub off, or vice versa. That I will completely agree with in that scenario. I'm just saying, though, I haven't personally experienced that in my life. Like, I haven't. Again, though, I grew up in a broken home, and my mother did do a lot of these things. You know, she did have affairs and kind of ran out on us, and, you know, yada yada. So this is anecdotal, I understand, but I'm just saying, like,
and this created a
I've always-
concave of cataclysmic events, which then affected your life. And
Absolutely.
did it repeat itself? Did the behaviors repeat themselves?
They didn't. No, they did not repeat themselves. I am divorced, but I never cheated on my husband.
Well, right. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe there's caveats with every single situation, but the behavior
yeah,
did repeat itself.
Right. Yeah. You try to do better each generation. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just to the whole cheating, it seems like people cheating on each other is pretty universally like despised. I mean, like I do see, like, you know, occasionally like an Instagram post, or like some woman somewhere who's like, oh yeah, you go girl, cheat on him, you know, like fuck his dad, fuck his boyfriend. We don't like it. But like, I think these are like pretty extreme outliers. I don't think this is like, there's like large support systems for women specifically for cheating on their husbands. I think generally,
but Coder,
I
this
think
would
generally
stand.
people, I think
It would
generally
stand to
people
logic.
I don't think it stands to logic. I think
Well, then
generally
let's look at it like I just did with Ashley. If your in-group who's married men do not initiate these divorces and don't do these general types of behaviors, and this is most of what your friend group is comprised of, don't you agree that the social shaming in that in-group would be far more than an in-group of people who do compromise the group that is conducting the behavior?
So you're saying that like women who are getting divorces, who are cheating on their husbands, they're probably hanging out with other women who are cheating on their husbands and getting divorced?
This is by the numbers. No.
The numbers that you're talking about are about women getting divorced and hanging out with other women who are divorced. But you're not.
Exactly.
But that's not women.
No. If you're talking about something,
that's not women who are cheating on their husbands and they hang out.
You're talking about 70%.
No, you're trying to extrapolate this to a huge amount of women.
I have some data.
You can't do that.
I have some data that might help.
Right,
there was a very large UK study, I think it was done in 2018, if I remember correctly, that showed this chain reaction where if in a friend group, one couple breaks up because one of the partners cheated, it increases the chances of the other couples cheating and breaking up by like 250% or something like that.
Which makes logical sense. It makes logical sense.
It's a social contagion. It's a social contagion. But my point was that when women cheat or when women leave a marriage, they generally get a lot of sympathy, a lot of support. There's so much support for single moms. Single moms are heroes. Single moms are amazing. And it doesn't really matter what the reasoning is of why they, you know, if it was by choice or not that they became a single mom. Whereas like if a man,
we just need to support people who are single parents.
If a man leaves a marriage because he says, look, I wasn't treated good, I was treated poorly, and so I had an affair and left, everyone's like, oh, what a piece of shit. He's such an asshole. What a deadbeat dad. And it's like, if the mom says, oh, I didn't feel fulfilled and loved, I didn't feel like I was getting enough attention, so I had to cheat. There's just generally a lot of sympathy. People are more sympathetic to women.
And just to add to that real quick before you guys respond, real quick, it'll be real quick, but just to add to it real quick for Radical Coder, this is why we look at the virtues of masculinity so much, because it is within our virtues to shame men who are horrific to their family, abandon them, treat them like they're interchangeable fucking widgets. And that's why we use shame tactics. You might think it's mean, but it's necessary within the in-group so that we can keep all of our families intact. We can keep them together. We can work together. That's how that works in real time. So, hey, don't cheat on your husband or your wife, you piece of shit. What are you thinking? You got kids at home.
This has been my whole hang on.
For Rachel a few minutes ago, I just wanted to clarify.
I'll just respond and then
go ahead, Ryan.
I'm like Andrew.
I'll just say it seems like both of you have a point. So if you want, just go 30 seconds or whatever back to forth, and then we'll hand it over back to the yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, to what Andrew was saying. Like, I was agreeing that, like, there's shame around people who are cheating on their spouses, and that, like, I think that's fine. I don't mind shaming people who cheat. But I also don't think that then places like extra blame on people who are single parents to like they should be like treated worse for that at the end of the day. Like, they still need support, like, to raise those children, and that, like, that's fundamentally that's what I care about more than how the relationship ended. So I think that's maybe the difference we have.
Okay, so I understand that, but listen
And then
very.
the
Go ahead.
question
Go ahead.
that I had for Rachel, because you wrote the book on the data, chapter 10, I think. So you were saying that, like, what was it, 70%? Okay, so 70% of divorces are initiated by women. Got it. And then you were saying that the data overwhelmingly shows, like, and you cited your sources of why they left. And it was basically because they felt unfulfilled. They were bored, more or less. They were bored and they just wanted out, right?
Yeah.
My question was, the whole time I was wondering, of the 70%, what percentage are they actually getting these answers from? That's kind of an important caveat.
And
to
like,
that.
what was the sample size?
Right. So say 70% of people did something. Like, how obviously
I
we
mean,
don't
that's
So-
gonna, it's
so
gonna vary
that-
study to study,
did
though.
it.
No, that's a really simple answer. So when you get a divorce, one party or the other has to file for the divorce, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So in all 50 states, they can take that data and see that in 70% of all divorces filed, that it was the wife in the marriage who filed for the
I get that part.
Yeah.
But the reasoning behind it, you said
Okay,
that was
well, that would depend on what
It's all
data you're looking at.
self-reports.
and it's
Yeah.
very important. I have a point to that, which I can make later or whatever, but that's very important to me to know, because of 70%, we get it. But of those 70%, what percentage of those women were actually interviewed that actually said these things? It
Yeah.
seems like we're kind of lumping two things together. And the reason I say that is because, no, I have a reason, Andrew, is
Okay.
because my husband actually wanted to leave me because he fell out of love with me. Neither of us cheated. There wasn't abuse. I feel slighted in that sense, right? But I am the one that actually filed the papers. The reason being is that my lawyer advised me to do so because it was more beneficial to me to do so. It was more beneficial to do so in the beginning, even though I am not the one. And trust me when I say I begged on my knees for him to reconsider.
Yeah, but these are outliers, though.
If
You're
you're
talking about
lumping me into
outliers.
that 70, you say it's outliers, but I'm saying, like,
We
how
have the
many
self-reports. That's why. Because we have the
understand.
self-reports. That's the whole point. Going back to
Of all
coders,
70%, though, there's no way that each one of those women said it's because I'm bored or I
all
wanted to
empirical
cheat or I was-
data is imperfect. We have to operate off of, if we're going to
Exactly.
use
And
empirical
it's
data, we
important
have to
to
operate
understand-
off of the best that we can if we're going to
That's-
even bother
but
using
I
empirical.
can say, but Andrew, I can say that that's why I cited multiple sources in my book.
No,
Right.
Not just
I've read
one,
the same kind
right?
of thing.
So,
Yeah.
and if they all kind of fall into line with each other and they're all the same ratios, then that makes
But
it
of
pretty-
what percentage? That's what I'm saying. So, like, I was one that filed for
Okay,
divorce in the
so
United
we
States of
can't
America.
we
I-
can't ask 100% of every woman who files for
Exactly.
divorce why,
Exactly.
but we can get a large enough sample size that it establishes a pattern.
And also, you have to look at the women that are willing to answer these types of questions. I
Well,
wouldn't
I
have.
mean-
Well, you have to know in no fault divorce states, you usually cite some kind of
Well, and these
reason.
things, hang on, these
So
things are all
irreconcilable
controlled. They're
on that as
controlled
well.
for. These are controlled for. It's controlled so that we can eliminate
Talking about
these
women that
types
were
of
interviewed by
outliers.
state
Yeah, but
workers
listen.
or that were interviewed by lawyers.
Yeah, it's not just that, though. They take a combination of these things, and you have controls that are put in, like you do with all empirical reporting or empirical data. Well, I mean, and some of it's imperfect, to your point, but I feel like unless you have an actual empirical argument to bring against it,
Well, we've
it's kind of
spoken so
moot.
much though tonight about things that are personal to us, about our own observations.
Well, you
or-
have.
You have.
right? And so it does kind of fall in line with that. And that was honestly kind of triggering in my mind, like, but it's that data is not, foolproof. It's
Yeah.
not.
Well, I get it,
Yeah,
but
so
I
that
want
you
to
wouldn't
lead
let it
this
go,
back,
you
if you
know?
don't mind, to Radical Coder.
Yeah,
Radical
absolutely.
Coder says
I just wanted
Sure.
to talk about that for a moment.
nobody's making the claim, Radical Coder, that it's a monolith. Okay, what I'm saying is that all of these different groups, going back to your point, let me just make sure that you remember what your point was before, because there was a diversion. You were explaining that you yourself thought that, well, all that matters is, helping people who are in a single situation, or they're single. In other words, they're single, they have
Well,
kids,
at the end of the day,
things
that's
like
what I
this.
care about.
Okay, yeah, right. But going back to this, I need you to concede this point that different people are going to have different in groups based on social situation and status. Based on social situation and status.
I don't think I gave any indication that I disagreed with the statement.
Okay, right. So because this is true, I need to go back to what I'm saying with, I have engaged with like the red pill community, the blue pill community. And when I'm talking about these communities, I'm talking about the degenerates who are like trying to teach people how to pick up women, the pickup artists, this kind of shit, right?
Yeah,
those are the type
women who cheat on their husbands.
Okay, hang on.
These are terrible to them, right?
No, these are the kind of guys. These are the kind of guys who will walk over and high five you if you scored the night before, even if you were cheating on your girlfriend. They don't fucking care. Now, this is not, again, a monolith. Okay. Some of them may, but by and large, they don't care. But if you move over to the married demographic or the Christian demographic, there's a huge amount of social stigma from Christian married couples against other Christian married couples who step out of their wife or abandon their family or things like this. It's important that you acknowledge that that's true, because these are the types of virtues that we espouse. And I'm not sure that you even disagree with them.
And before you respond, actually, I will say we have about 5 more minutes left of open discussion. It has been a lively and fun back and forth, but we're about to go into the Q&A section. So if you would like any or all of our interlocutors to answer your question or comment, please send in your chat at Amy Newman or your super chats, which will get you priority. And not only that, please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. But once again, panel, if you have a question for each other, now is the time to get it in.
So I guess I'll start by saying I think it's interesting the point you bring up about like the red pill community. I mean, this massive community that, like, with all the Andrew Tate stuff, this clearly is attracting a very large amount of men. And I feel like this is if this is not counter to what Rachel was saying earlier, that like men are the ones who are shamed and tortured for cheating on their wives, but they can find these support networks, obviously, if they go to these communities, so they can still find those. But more importantly, I think that if people are in marriages that they don't want to be in, I think the problem is that we don't have support structures for these people to take care of their children after this fact. Whoever it is initiating divorce, whoever is leaving, we don't have the systems in place to help them after the fact. And I think that's a bigger problem, right? But there are people who will support them in either direction, I guess. So we talk about the women who are going to high five, oh, you left your husband. And we talk about the men who are going to high five, oh, you cheated on your wife or your girlfriend. Like, both of these exist. Both of these support networks exist. So this doesn't really speak to like whether or not men are undervalued. It does. We could bring it back to like, who is more likely, I guess, to find those support networks. And I would say it's much easier to find the support network of the red pill type of people, even if it is your wife that you are leaving out on. Like, you're going to go and become the giga chat in these groups, right? Where you're going to go and find as many women as you want and get high fives for it, and do all these things. While I think the woman is probably less likely to find a massive network of online people who they can instantly find camaraderie and fraternize with in this regard. So I think that's interesting. It doesn't really speak to like whether or not men are undervalued, I guess, but
yeah, that's actually what I was gonna say, is that this really doesn't address the topic, and I keep trying to get back to the topic.
Okay.
And
yeah, I'm sure.
I think that we have, again, I presented a lot of evidence in my opening, which I think clearly demonstrates that there is a bias in favor of giving women every break possible, right? I could cite more. There are special scholarships for women, special business loan opportunities for women. If you're a woman, you just have a natural hand up, because there's this underlying assumption that women are disadvantaged or historically disadvantaged.
Your startup
right?
business loans are quite lower, though, than the males.
Yeah, which is why these affirmative action type things come from.
Women don't want to. Okay, but listen, guys. What I'm saying is the topic of the debate is supposed to be, are men like treated poorly, ignored?
We understand, Rachel.
Right. So we keep talking about like what happens after a divorce or why people get divorced, and it's like, we have very clear evidence that if you're a woman, all you have to do as a woman is have a vagina and be moderately attractive, and you're going to have a much easier time in life than any man. at least for the first half of your life. That
But
may
you're
not
only
be
going to be
true.
valued for that vagina, right? That's not, and what kind of, a lot of women want a lot more than that, right?
Well, I always argue
We should
against
have
that.
we should have
but
gone into that then,
We
radical
should have.
coder.
We
Well, you
should
just brought
have.
it up.
Because I always argue against that. But the point is, you guys still haven't presented, like, here's an example of how women are disadvantaged or how men are
Yeah,
privileged.
like for
You
example,
guys haven't presented like a scenario,
Right,
data,
Rachel,
an argument
Those
that shows
I
that
agree
men
with you,
are
but
privileged.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. But honestly, I think the problem here is that personally, I wasn't properly vetted. I honestly thought that I was going to be on the other side of this because the majority of my content is on the other side.
Yeah, and I just,
It wasn't specifically stated to me that I was going to be in the no position. I'm being dead ass with you.
understood.
yeah.
Going
For me,
going
I'm
to
doing the
Andrew.
best I can.
I
I'm
would
trying
like to ask you this though, radical coder. When
Right.
you talk about Andrew Tate and organizations like MGTOW, these aren't support organizations for men. They are a response, a reactionary group to the status of what's happening to men. That what they're doing
I
is
don't agree with that.
they're abandoning virtue. They're abandoning masculine virtue. They're abandoning families. I can give you an example of this. Go on my Twitter and you'll see a guy I follow named Sandman. I've been listening to him for years in the MGTOW community for years. Not everything the MGTOW community says is incorrect because they rightly point out much of the time how much men are treated like shit. I disagree with them because they have no virtues whatsoever. And I've
Well, they have
hang on. And I've successfully argued this multiple times in the Red Pill community. I have a series of debates with the degens. I've won every single one of them because of this. Now, when we're talking about the virtues, understand this is a reaction to what's currently happening to men. This is not a support network for them. It's something that is Andrew Tate is a reaction. All of these things are reactions, not support groups that were designed to help men, but rather reactionary groups that spontaneously sprung up because they're so pissed off about how they're treated in society. That's why their gravitation goes that way.
Bad men dangerous.
Sure. I agree with the sentiment about how these groups can radicalize men and things like this, and they're not necessarily designed. We can contrast them to the support groups that Rachel mentioned, which exist in response to a historic discrimination towards women, right? So these affirmative action programs and these types of things that are disproportionately
Yeah, you remember my
towards
open?
women.
You remember my open? They've been
Sure.
women have been oppressed for 8 billion years, and that'll end up.
Well,
being
I mean,
our
like
argument.
women literally. Like,
Come on, dude.
You
Come
can
on.
meme about it. You can
Answer-
meme about it,
answer
but it
to
doesn't
the-
make it doesn't
answer
make it
to
not
the
true.
reaction.
It doesn't make it not true to me.
Answer
about it.
to the reactionary portion.
So
of
to
this.
the reactionary portion, I don't necessarily like when I hear Andrew Tate or all these people. Besides the specific value of like one woman or versus like having a harem or a harem of women, right? Besides that one specific value, I think a lot of the things that like Andrew's like criticized for saying, these are like really classic patriarchal values that people have been saying for fucking hundreds of years, and he's just saying them now, and they sound more shocking now because there's been a bigger push towards or a bigger push
because
against those
progressives have done everything possible to devalue masculinity and the virtues
no,
of
but
men.
it's
become a
the things that
reaction
you don't like that he
where
says
if
are also
a person,
packaged in that.
where if a man even expresses traditional masculine values, people gravitate towards that, even if the man's a shitbag, even if he's a horrible shitbag. I came out against Andrew Tate from the very beginning and said this
Brave
is
of
not
you.
a virtuous man.
You're like a feminist.
He's not saying virtuous things. No,
Now,
it's the
Not at all.
opposition to feminism. It's virtue.
Yeah,
You
feminists
understand
love
the
Andrew Tate.
difference?
Yeah.
Do you know what's a virtue?
I think it's grossly affected us politically too.
we could probably go back and forth. In fact, I have enjoyed this debate on Are Men Ignored / Unappreciated today. However, we are about to move into the Q&A section. However, before we do that, I would like to ask each of our interlocutors if you would like to tell everyone where and what you got going on the interwebs, and then your final thought on the topic. The floor is yours, whoever picks it up next.
Can I go first?
So I am not your everyday Ashley XOXO. I have a
Apparently
YouTube
not.
It's okay.
You can find me there, not your everyday Ashley XOXO. I really don't give a shit about most of this, but I do want to say, Rachel, you have very good taste. Your outfit is just killing it tonight. I love the hairdo.
We did not dress like twins on purpose.
Yes, we did.
Fashion.
We were texting before this stream, even sending pictures back and forth. Andrew, it was a pleasure to meet you. You are a little bit insufferable, but I'm not gonna lie, I had fun. You guys are a lot of fun. And sorry, not sorry for calling you a bitch, but a little sorry. It'd be like that sometimes. All right.
It do be like that.
It do.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan, radical coder. I have a lot going on. I like teaching coding and politics, or I talk about politics. I teach coding and mathematics and things like this. And I wanted to real quick touch on the CRT thing because we just had something happen in Florida where Ron DeSantis is like banned an AP African American history class on the basis of it being critical race theory. So you know he's literally like banning Black history, which is something people should probably start paying attention to. But more to yeah, so I like talking about a lot of different things, but unfortunately there's this massive culture war being waged by the right because they don't have any policies, they don't have any actual interesting things going on in terms of that. So if you look at the GOP platform, it's pretty boring, pretty disgusting, doesn't really have much going for it. So they have to wage war on these culture issues. They have to put men versus women, they have to do a lot of this stuff, which is why I was very uncomfortable taking a hard no rigid position instead of like opening a discussion about the issues that men and women face in society and trying to go through all the different bullet points that Andrew hammered out at the beginning, and which I thought would be interesting if we could walk through them one by one and talk about them, but that's obviously not what we were here for. And I guess I'll leave it at that. You can subscribe to me, Radical Coder on YouTube. We got a lot coming in the pipeline, so stay tuned.
Holy Adderall, Batman. Okay,
Thanks.
My name's Rachel Wilson. I have a book you can find on Amazon. It is called Occult Feminism, The Secret History of Women's Liberation. I am launching my own show January 26th. It will just be Rachel Wilson on YouTube. You can also see me next Wednesday on Jay Dyer's YouTube channel, which is like, I'm super excited for that. Big Jay Dyer fan. And I do a lot of debates on this sort of topic, and it is very important to me. So I was happy to be here. And my closing thoughts are just that, you know, if we look at the statistics, if we look at a number of examples, it's pretty clear that there's a big imbalance in power now between men and women. Women are pretty unequivocally privileged in society. Men are disprivileged. And it's all based on this false assumption that there was a patriarchy that oppressed women throughout history until the last 100 years, which is not true. If you buy my book, I detail the entire history of the last several thousand years. So if you're into that, go ahead and go to Amazon and find my book.
What's the name of your book again? Sorry.
It's called Occult Feminism, The Secret History of Women's Liberation.
That'd be my turn now. My name is Andrew Wilson. I am the host of the one and only Crucible, one of the finest debate channels that has ever existed in the history of the internet. Also the fastest growing. Do work with other debate channels like Modern Day Debate, which I recommend and push people towards all the time because I'm just that benevolent. A couple of things that I wanted to close with real quick. Understand that our opponents really had no argument. We started with a conspiracy theory from Radical Coder, which was that there was some type of background noise, which alluded to me somehow, you know, I mean, you can shake your head, but this whole debate has been thematic in the, I didn't even know what I was here to argue, which is very bizarre to me and doesn't seem like the standard that James puts down on his 100,000 subscriber channel. Just saying. It's odd to me. It sounds very tinfoil hattish and conspiratorial. Now, more than that, to address many of these arguments, there weren't very many made, but the few that were made were, of course, by the man, Radical Coder, if you can call him such. He talked about reactionary groups, claimed those reactionary groups were somehow a support network for men who were ostracized, rather than being a condition of men who are ostracized, making them gravitating towards them because there's nothing else for them. When we got into talking about the division of groups, they agree with us. In fact, largely they agree with us on almost every single thing we say. They just have caveats and try to put it through some type of progressive prism, especially Radical Coder. But he has such bad ADHD and he spurgs so much, it's actually hard to keep track of his own arguments. Now, I don't hate Ryan. Me and Ryan have engaged many times, even on Discord, privately. He's always been decent with me. I clown on him a bit, and he knows I'm going to clown on him a bit. He tries to do it back. It's funny. Okay. Like the opening, you're gay, which I stand by. It has nothing to do with trying to beat up on homosexuals. That's not ever even what gay, or when a guy calls another guy gay, they don't mean that. When they call him like the F slur, they don't actually mean anything disparaging towards homosexuals. And fucking the thing that drives me the most crazy about it is like, you guys know that shit. You know it. You've been on all the discords. You know that they don't call people that shit because they actually think they're gay. And I wish we would just stop pretending. Lack of argument from the other side. We won handily. We won right in the intro, just like I predicted. We won right after our opening statements, just like I said we would. We're fucking awesome. We dominated you. We win. So from there, I'll hand the floor back to the name on my end is still James Coons, right? I know it's not. Welcome to Modern Day Debate. The floor is yours.
Had a little bit of a transition. We all wake up. Sending love out there to James Coons and Kaz and all of the moderators out there like Hannah and Sideshow and Surgeon, everyone. But with that, I do want to remind you all that all 4 of our interlocutors links are in the description below. And so if you liked what you heard tonight, you can go find more. But with that, we are going to head over to the Q&A section, starting with Thunderstorm for $10. Men and certain women are being treated horribly in capitalist Bolshevik society because they are pulled away from their ethnicity, a community culture, by the state.
Capitalist Bolshevik society.
I'm not
But
sure if they're
There
insulting.
is, to caveat it though, there is some truth to what's being said. There needs to be at least some type of cultural homogeny that happens in order for people to even get along. I mean, we have to at least be able to speak the same language. We have to have at least some of the same base values. This is extremely important. It's something that's glossed over. Even Ryan, when he's pressed, wouldn't be able to disagree with that. He just thinks that the status quo is fine and everybody integrates just fine. And even more would probably be fine. But it is important to understand that cultural integration is important regardless of capitalism or communism. It can't be done. Even Bosch would tell you this is true.
I'm just curious about, I was just curious about the phrasing because my second book, which is coming out later this year, is actually about the Bolsheviks. And they were not capitalist. They were funded by capitalists, however, which a lot of people don't know. But I'm a little bit confused about the phrasing on that. So I'll just go with what Andrew said.
I just wanted to say that I am way too stupid to answer that question.
I just wanted to say that I completely agree with you.
And
so
Okay,
what can I answer? I didn't get to answer the question. Yeah. So I would agree that like there are capitalistic forces that like devalue both men and women in a lot of different ways. I don't think that the solution to that involves like organizing people based on their ethnicity in any way. I think it's more. I think the problem therein lies with is a conflict between people who are undervaluing like workers for them and those workers wanting to survive and feed themselves and feed the people around them, take care of the people around them, and are being in many cases pretty deeply exploited by their employers. But I don't think that this is like an ethnicity thing. I'll agree with Andrew that like there's some basis of communication is really important. That doesn't mean that we need like a national language or anything like this. I think it's really valuable to have people speaking different languages, and I don't think that people speaking different languages means that there's no way to communicate. Obviously,
yeah, man, I wish we could come back for that debate.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, people can bridge that gap. People can find like obviously you can learn some of each language. Like people who live near a lot of immigrants tend to pick up a lot of language from those immigrants as well. So I think that's something that is valuable.
Thank you for that super chat, Thunderstorm, and that answer, Interlocutors, and a $10 super chat from Experiments in Prebiotic Chemistry. Thank you, Rachel, for your presentation. You are awesome. Love ya. Got a fan out there.
Now, hang on,
Thank
hang on.
you.
That was
Thank you.
directed towards Rachel and not Ashley. So seethe, Ashley. Seethe. You deserve it. Deserve it.
And I'm sending love to all of our interlocutors as we move forward to Ozzy, gold member for 2 months, 3 for extra juicy. Thank you so very much. Who ordered the Ego Festival? Uh-oh, the spice is real. Sending love, Ozzy, though.
Fair enough.
James would say juicy.
J Juicy.
Juicy.
that's
Juicy,
right.
yes. Juicy fruitsy, right? That's James's thing.
So thank you so very much, Ozzy Gold. Sending love right back, and thank you for being a member. $5 super chat from Reason. Radical Coder, grow up and just answer. Stop being a child.
I think this was to the is ought thing at the beginning, which I wanted Andrew to just kind of get to the point, because he was doing like a meme thing where he walks me up to the point, and I just asked him to just make his point, and he didn't want to. So
Well, just so you guys understand, if I had been asked that question by any of my opponents, I would have given an answer because I understand basic philosophy. But that's just me.
Okay.
Just
Now
me.
on, when I do hear that, I will know. Thank you.
Thank you for the super chat and the responses. $2 from Tim Zilmich. Ashley is having a blonde moment.
Several.
Agreed. We agree. We 100%. Look, the yes side and the no side can all come together on this one fact.
And I am just sending love out there. Thank you for your responses. And another membership chat sent in from Coffee Mom. Thank you so very much for your support. Oppression of men started when women got rights.
Well,
Is
no,
there a
it's
question mark there?
Yes, there was a
so
question mark.
it's actually a far more complex thing than this. It's what you do with what you're given. And we've seen what happens with this detrimental and horrific experiment when what is considered the patriarchy, which is what the entire world operates off of by necessity, because only men can do the things that are required to keep society running, are then systematically oppressed by what Radical Coper would call the minoritization of those men, even by the majority, which are women, this is exactly our point from the very beginning, which is, look, just because you say or try to make this correlate, oh, women got rights and then things went downhill. Well, kind of, yeah, that's pretty much true. But this is because they use those rights in an oppressive way to deterministically go after the male infrastructure of which they rely to exist.
I think that the initial premise or idea of feminism, which is just equal rights for all, was a beautiful one. And I think that I don't believe in repealing the 19th Amendment or any of that bullshit. But I do think that modern day feminism has perverted and twisted. I don't think that these modern day feminists want equality. I think that they want superiority. And that in and of itself is just it's another cycle starting all over again. And I think everyone needs to pull their head out of their asses.
Well, I would agree with Ashley on the last part of what she said, but I'm completely against first wave feminism as well, because if you go back to the suffrage movement, there were actually much higher levels of membership in anti-suffrage women's groups in around the turn of the century than there were pro-suffrage groups. And a lot of those groups put out pamphlets, posters, stating the reasons that they didn't want to be involved in politics, so the reason that they didn't want the vote. And some of the best reasons for that, in my opinion, were they did not want their homes divided. They could foresee that if you gave women the vote, there would be women voting for safety, protection, be nice, right? And then there would be men voting for productivity, less taxation, and things of that nature. They also said, why give us the vote when we are not capable of defending the homeland? It's not something we can do, so why give us this responsibility? They had a lot of really sound reasons for not wanting to have to be involved in politics and having to have political power when they felt that the family unit was the most important thing. So I think that even first wave feminism was not only a bad move, but it was a lot of the suffragettes were occultists. They were fortune tellers. They were fraudsters. They were con artists, basically. So if you go read my book, you can read all about who they were and what they did.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, to what Rachel was saying, thank God in America it's not illegal not to vote. So women who don't want women's suffrage, go ahead, please don't vote. We probably don't want your votes. So that's totally fine. You don't have to. I do think there is something funny about wanting to give up like the responsibility that you might have to society to like let your voice be heard, wanting to kind of like let things be as they are. And like a lot of women not wanting to have involvement with that. I'm a little bit sympathetic to that. Like maybe it would be nice to live in a world where things just kind of work out around you. But we never really lived in that world. That world's never existed for most people. I think again, like we talked about, like the traditional family structure and how that was kind of a privilege for a lot of people. It didn't necessarily exist, especially at the lower class. It's definitely not for like Black women or Native people and
Ryan, you and I should debate that. That should be our next debate.
Oh, wait! I just wanted to respond to the super chat real quick.
Not only that, Andrew, but since it was your super, well, you can respond radical after, but it does have to end on the yes
it'll
side.
Be super quick. It'll be super quick.
Go ahead,
I promise. So imagine being so stupid that out of the first side of your mouth you say that women shouldn't vote if they don't want to, and then out of the other side of the mouth saying, I can't imagine you abandoning your duty to vote. This is
I said I can't imagine.
No, you said you couldn't. I can't really imagine that you would abandon your actual duty to do that. But if you are people who are, you can sympathize with it. There's a big difference between how you're framing it, between what you just said. It's unimaginable to me that you're that dense and that stupid that you would say the one thing and then give the propaganda for why they should out of the other side of your mouth. It's insane.
Yeah, so the women who don't want to vote should not vote to stop other women from voting. That's my point, to be clear.
Why shouldn't they?
You disparage women who don't want to be involved in politics.
And on that,
you disparaged them. So
I'll disparage you.
Well,
poorly.
Maybe. On the opposite, for a $5 super chat from Experiments in Prebiotic Chemistry, Rachel, do you have a Patreon? I would love to donate.
I do have a Patreon. I don't do a lot on there. You'd be better off going to my Substack and subscribing to that as a paid subscriber. I think I'm going to move everything from Patreon over to Substack. So thank you so much for your support and your patronage. But yes, go to rwilson.substack.com, and that's where I'm posting all of my writing and everything now. So
she has my patriarchal last name, by the way. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's horrific. But somehow she gets through the day.
Thank you for your super chat and the response. A $10 super chat from Melody. Kate, I don't want to support such anger and hatred by supporting this particular type of rage. This was not a debate. I want to support the channel and Amy. Sending love and support right back at you, Melody. I thought it was a good debate, for what I will say. I agree with Super Chatter and the interlocutors, which, yes. And Going Love, a $2 super chat for Radical Coder at When You Kiss a Woman.
What?
You're wondering if the last woman you kissed name was Chuck. That's what the super chat was.
Again, Andrew disparaging me for allegedly being gay.
I didn't disparage you. I asked you a simple question.
You're saying that I kissed someone named Chuck, and you're laughing about it because you think it's funny, right? You think it's funny.
Yeah, I do think it's funny. I think it's funny.
I don't know what the question is. I don't know the question actually.
Come on, Ashley, it's funny. You would say it to him because come on. If we were all at dinner and I said it to Radical Code, everybody would be laughing.
The question?
And so I'm gonna, and I'll be very specific because I saw Dustin was sending personal questions, but this was a super chat, and we do love our super chatters for the support. So for Radical Coder at when would you kiss a woman?
Okay, so I think they're asking are they asking? I think the question is like about whether or not I would like jump forward and kiss, like whether
Stop
instead of, like,
malfunctioning, NPC, and just answer the question.
yeah, I'm
Holy
sorry,
shit.
dude. Hey, let me exist. All right, bro. Come on. I kiss women when I feel that I have their consent. Doesn't mean I have to ask them like word for word. Can I kiss you now? Like, I'm not fucking stupid. And then you can read body language. You can understand with a little bit of empathy. You can understand how people are feeling and whether or not they're interested in kissing you. I do think that a lot of men are a little presumptuous about when they try to kiss women, and a lot of men are under presumptuous. And there are, both of these things exist. So people should be more conscious of how the people around them are feeling when they're making sexual advances.
My consent. All morality boils down to
Consent is based. Amen.
Ugh. It's terrible. I'll debate you on that too, Radical Coder, because boiling all morality down to consent is so easy to defeat. I could defeat that with one arm tied behind my back in my sleep while drunk. So let's
I would only do that to you if you consented.
And you have the last point because it was your question, and a $2 super chat. Radical Coder, from Brandon. Radical Coder, what's your LeetCode code score?
Honestly, I just started using LeetCode recently. I actually kind of want to go through a bunch of that on stream. So right now, let's say it's 0, and subscribe to my channel, and we can do some LeetCode live streams. I think that'll be fun.
Thank you for the super chat and response. A $5 super chat from Samar. Who's excited for the JF versus Ben Burgess? Make sure to like and follow Betas. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, Samar. By the way, just a comment on that. JF, I have a great relationship with him, and couldn't recommend watching that debate enough. Even though JF will come in with some neurological bullshit, it will be a lot of fun. Even I'm going to be tuning in for that, right? Even I am.
I like Ben.
Thank you all for the support and sending love. That's definitely one you all should set your notification bells for. And another one from Samar, $10. Not a big Tate fan, but to all debaters, why do you think his message was spreading like wildfire before his deplatforming? Does misogyny really cover it?
Well, I guess since nobody else jumped in, I'll jump in. Number one, I think that Andrew Tate was actually signal boosted by the establishment because he is helpful to their cause. He is promoting stuff like Islam, harems, polygamy. It's not something that I don't believe that Andrew Tate was an organic phenomenon at all. And number two, I think that there's a lot of angry, disaffected incel type of men out there, which is what we've been talking about this whole debate, is the effects of disaffecting a large majority of the male population and then seeing what happens. So it's just like what happened, in a certain time period in Germany, where it's like you have a horribly disaffected population and you can install any strong man and people will just flock to him. So I don't think he's virtuous. I don't think his message was good, but I think that we've created a horrible situation where somebody like Andrew Tate can be signal boosted and catch a lot of fire, unfortunately.
And to add to this, recognize that
everybody's weakest. Exactly. I'm sorry. I just agree. Strike while the iron's hot. We were at a point of severe weakness in our country, which again, I think has to do with where I go into the voting. Like I've heard previously Democratic leftist males say that they're purposely voting very right wing now, specifically because of modern day feminism. I've heard them say that, that's and sad. I think that's part of sad.
Yeah.
And that's part of the Andrew Tate phenomenon. Sorry.
Well, let me, no problem. Let me just kind of reaffirm what the wife is saying. You can actually go, me and my current co-host, Zen Shapiro, had a debate on this on my friend Red Pill Gang TV's channel. Fantastic channel, by the way. On Andrew Tate at the beginning of the phenomenon. And at that time, I basically expressed that this was a reaction and he would be a massive letdown. And I actually equated it to what happens when these Christian Protestant megala preachers end up getting caught sucking a dick in a parking lot, and how humiliating that is for the right wing, and said that that would be the exact experience we would have with Andrew Tate. You can go there, Red Pill Gang TV's channel, and see that debate. It's posted on his channel so that you understand my wife's exactly right. He was a reaction, and everybody was pushed by the establishment towards that reaction.
Yeah, so I agree that Andrew's popularity was a reaction. I don't think he was like a plant or whatever. These guys are suggesting this kind of conspiracy minded thing. I think
says the guy who thinks that a debate host is a conspiracy is engaged in a conspiracy.
The loaded topic is a different thing. But to Andrew Tate point specifically, I think that a lot of the rhetoric around the rise of, or the impact of feminism is centered around saying that it really or treating it as if it demonizes men a lot more than it really does fundamentally. And so when men are receiving this message that that feminism hates them, that women hate them, not really from women so much as other men who are feeding into this idea. I think that when some guy comes along and he's telling them self-improvement advice, but he combines it with a lot of misogynistic stuff and he combines it with a lot of things that are anti-feminist, these guys are going to be attracted to that kind of thing because they feel as if feminists all hate them. Feminists don't hate you. Intersectional feminists are probably most people who identify as feminists are intersectional feminists, and they don't hate you. They don't want you to be miserable. They want the best for more people. They want equality for people of all races, all genders, all sexualities, all of these things, and they want people to be recognized. They want specifically the impacts of all of these things on their lives.
Oh,
to be recognized
bullshit!
As well. Yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all
they go
bullshit,
after traditional feminists like J.K. Rowling because she says that everything that women fought for was completely and totally
I'm not
destroyed.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, of course you're not. Of course you don't.
We can do that later. I mean, I will another time, but not
Rowling,
right now. Like
on my channel before, where I disagree with you vehemently that there aren't more political conspiracies going on. You always take the
well, you should vote to get those people out of power. Then you should make sure you're voting.
Just vote harder, you
vote
guys.
harder, bro.
Just vote harder, bro.
Hell yeah. Vote harder. Get more people who are voting for candidates that you support.
Everything.
Amen. Stop trying to tell people not to vote. People who listen to you guys should not vote.
And this is why I think you're gay, Coder. This is why. This is what I mean by that.
Well, you made a nice, can't help but use that word again, transitionary statement, because Black Silver for $5, and I will say after this, we only have a few more super chats and 1 or 2 chats left. And so if you have your burning desire question for one of all of our debaters, please send them in now because we will be wrapping up. However, $5 from Black Silver. Would Radical Coder fist fight Andrew to prove himself not gay?
I will do it with one hand tied behind my back. I will give you the Beardson Beardly Challenge if you'll show up with your dork glasses and get stomped on in front of cameras. I will happily raise the funds. Coder, when would you like to do this?
I like your Brian.
Thank you, Ashley. So I don't hinge my masculinity on whether or not I could beat up Andrew. I'm not really interested. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So
but I want
that's not what I'm here for.
Please.
Okay,
come
you
on.
want to beat me up? I think that's kind of sad.
No fun.
But,
no
I'm
fun.
just living my life.
Think about. Hang on. What if we gave all of the money that was raised to some like fucking transgender charity bullshit? Right? Then you would show up and take your woman, right?
No, I'm good.
No, still not. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go.
Think about all
all
the trans kids that you could benefit, though.
I just want to put on an asterisk that all fistfights on modern day debate are done digitally.
Based.
Yes, and so, sending love, thank you so very much, Black Silver, and your responses, guys. And $9 from Samar again. Thank you so very much for the support to the women on the panel. Would you trade your current day political say for a more structured traditional lifestyle? Why or why not? What exactly is valuable about your position foundationally? Either one
I would
first.
like Ashley to go first.
I would give my left arm to be able to be married to my husband again and be back in my family home with my children and my husband all together cohesively. I would, even if that meant giving up my rights. Yes, I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. I miss it very much. Having said that, it isn't a possibility for me. And so this is my life now. And at this point, there is nothing for me to give up. There's no rights for me to give up. So no, if that scenario could never happen again, then I'm happy to continue living life as it is and fighting the good fight.
Damn, Ashley just took the wind out of my sails. Actually, no, what she just said is the reason that I do what I do. It's because most women would say that, right? We've been propagandized for 100 years with this boss bitch, go girl, strong woman stuff. And most of us really deep down, and I know this because after a year of having my book out and having received dozens of messages, emails, DMs, even letters in the mail from women around the world, like South Africa, Europe, Canada, the United States, of women just saying that what they really want is to be moms and to have an intact family and be with their children and have a healthy, good, happy marriage and this stable life for raising their family. That's really what they want, but they don't feel like they can say that because it's kind of looked down on as like you're weak or you couldn't hack it in the career world, or like, you know, there's something wrong with you. You must be like low class if you're not like a CEO, Beyonce, you know, sexy boss bitch or whatever, right? And I think that just like 100 years ago, when we look at what women were saying at the turn of the century, that's really what most of us want. We don't really want like some corner office jet setting, fly to Paris to close the business deal type of life. Most of us really would choose our children and our families. And that doesn't mean you can't do other things in your life. Like my oldest daughter's 22 now. I'm old now, right? Like my youngest is already in her double digit ages and like doesn't need me constantly anymore. So I can do things like write a book. I can do things like these debates. Women have a lot of different phases in their life to think about. So do I think it was a good trade that we gave up family security, that we gave up marital security, that we gave up like our worth as women and our sexuality, like for the purpose of reproduction and all of that for this like promise of being a Beyonce when 99% of us are never going to be that. We're going to be waitresses. We're going to be secretaries. You know, we're going to be like working an administrative job. No, I don't think it was a fair trade at all. I think it was a Faustian deal. I think it was a terrible bargain for us. I think that women have suffered the most because of it, of anyone. Even though we're here talking about how unfair it is to men, I think women have suffered tremendously because of this. And so, yeah, I would 100% give up like some arbitrary right to vote, whatever that means.
I would
in order to have that back. Yeah, I totally would.
I would if it meant having.
Okay, so gay radical Coper, what do you have to say to that? The women on the panel are both in agreement, even though they're in opposition.
No one's stopping them from being. I mean, like, sure, Ashley's specific scenario, like Ashley. I don't think Ashley blames her problems in her marriage on feminism. I don't think feminism is a reason that women are in like. Or I don't think that like feminists are telling women not to be moms. Like, I think that's okay.
If I could
like,
go back in time, I would do things differently. I would be more of a server, more of a wife than I was.
Sure, and that's okay. That's, I mean, if that's
Ryan,
the role that you want. Hang on, Rachel, real quick.
You're a man.
Can you wait for a second?
Go ahead.
If that's the life that you want to live, that's the role that you want to fill. That's totally fine. Right. I don't think you should be stopped from doing that. However, I don't think that any part of that suggests that if somebody doesn't want to fill that role, that they should be pushed into that role by any means.
Okay, Ryan, a big part of what my book is about is that this myth that women weren't allowed to ever do anything is exactly that. It's a myth. Prior to women's liberation, there were women who owned property, owned businesses, inherited land, had their own money. Women were allowed to do lots of things. And I have several examples in the book of that exact thing. So the reason the history's been rewritten is because gender studies departments call this standpoint feminism. And they will tell you straight out that they've rewritten history from the standpoint of an oppressed woman. So
it's almost like critical race theory.
It is. It's exactly like that.
That's not
it's called standpoint theory. And so they've rewritten the history to make it to make people feel like women have just been historically chained to a stove and forced to give birth and had no rights. That's not real. That's not true. That's not how things were. And so for you to sit there and say like, oh, well, you can still do that if you want to. Yeah, I guess. But how
Aren't you
are
doing
women,
it? Don't you do these
how
things?
are women like Ashley and I supposed to swim upstream against the entire social current? We've got Cardi B, Taylor Swift,
Rachel,
Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce.
what do you
Hold
want to
on
do
a
that you're not
second, let
able
me
to do
finish.
because of feminism?
We've
What do you
got-
want to do
we've
that you're not
got-
able to do? because of feminism?
I will tell
Stop
you,
malfunctioning.
I know,
all
I'm
of
being very
society-
clear.
Stop
Gonna pull
What do you
everyone
want to do
point
that you
again.
can't do because of feminism? Name one fucking
So-
thing.
Stop
I will.
malfunctioning.
Ryan, if you be quiet, I will. So
Okay.
women are naturally inclined to be in group, right?
I'm not talking about women. Talking about you. What are you blocked from doing because of feminism? Name
I
one
can-
fucking thing.
I can answer that actually.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well,
Can you- and then Rachel,
it
please.
sounds like Rachel is actually giving the floor over to
Oh.
Ashley, so that sounds
Yeah,
good.
I
So
would too.
Ashley, it's all good. And same with you.
So I
Good.
think that probably part of modern day feminism has made it so much easier to walk away from a marriage. I think that if things were more traditional and good old fashioned like the way it was, I don't think that my husband would have had the choice, to get a divorce. And I think that after so many years of being married, you turn into different people. And I genuinely believe that he could have found a way to be happy. We both could have worked through that and found a way to be happy. I think that also I was confused a lot by what I felt like I should be doing. And maybe I didn't quite feel as fulfilled in my motherly or wifely duties as I otherwise would have been, by kind of what part of what you're saying, Rachel. So I can see how it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Pretty
Yeah,
fucking
definitely
base.
is.
Can Rachel
Pretty
can Rachel
base.
answer the question though?
Yes,
what
I
is
will
stopping
answer your
you from
question,
doing?
Ryan. So we're not talking about like legal restriction. We're talking about social norms. So when you
Okay.
sit here and talk about transgender people feeling like they're rejected, that's why they have higher suicide rates, higher depression rates, because they feel social pressure.
Well, usually
right?
feelings are involved in suicide,
Right.
but you're not.
It's
Why
the
are you like
same-
so?
so it's the same
He's
thing.
not
to avoid the
diverting.
question?
Let
If
her
you will let me
answer. You
talk-
I hope
asked.
so.
You
Okay.
asked.
If you will let me talk, the reason it's because intense social pressure. And I'm saying this as a woman, right? I grew up as a smart kid. I was always in the advanced classes. I was always put in like the advanced smart kid classes. And it was like expected that I had to go to college. I had to get a degree. I had to have a job. And so when I decided I don't want to do that, I had my first baby at 20 and I was like, I want to stay home and be with my kids and have a family. I was shamed. I was discouraged from doing that. I had intense pressure from family, from friends, and from society at large saying that makes you weak. It makes you vulnerable. It means you're a loser. It means that you are wasting your potential, right? So there's this intense pressure women feel from society at large that we have to be boss bitches. If you're not Beyonce, you ain't shit.
Are you not a boss bitch?
Well,
What's that?
Are you not a boss bitch? Still?
I'm not at all.
So
Yeah.
You're gonna like say like buy my
She's a
book.
boss bitch.
I'm like I go
You're
on
gonna
Fox
make-
News.
hey,
like,
hey.
I wrote a
Read
book.
my book
How
about
do you think
feminism
I
and
wrote
how
a
it's
book?
bad.
Hey,
so
Coder.
I'm gonna
Coder.
interrupt all of you.
Hang on, I gotta ask one question. Coder.
Yeah.
So
So
you
nothing
tell,
was
you
stopping
tell
you, though,
me
right?
what you think my wife should make me for breakfast in the morning. This
What? I
boss
don't give a
bitch.
shit what you eat for breakfast, but
Right,
she's still
well,
so
so
she's
the
obviously
thing is,
doing
no,
all
it's
the
not
things
a
that she
boss
wants to do.
bitch
At the end of the
because
day,
she
wants
has
to
a
do all-
permission slip from me.
Because
Coder.
my
Again, so she wants to do
husband
all of the things she
supports
wants to do,
me.
right?
Andrew
cool.
supports
So
the
cool.
family,
So people
I
can
do
so
that.
so women who want to do what you're doing, if they can find a husband who wants to be in that position as well, they can make that work. And sometimes it won't work. And I'm sorry, that happens as well. But you are not being forced
You're
out
not
of
even
that.
saying
So-
anything.
So-
You're not even
Okay.
saying
Okay. Well,
anything.
cool. I
Rachel and
disagree,
Andrew,
but
if you had any final comment, but then Radical, you have to make a comment that isn't a question. So one of you has to make not a question. Oh, and
Yeah,
Peter?
yeah, absolutely. The trad lifestyle is based and awesome. We need to get back to it as quickly as possible. Radical Coder's wrong about everything he says. That's my final
Radical
comment.
Plenty
Coder,
of
you have the final statement.
sure. Plenty
On
of
that.
people will want to live in those roles. Plenty of people want to fulfill those roles. Plenty of people don't want to fulfill those roles. And it's very important that we leave room for both of these things to exist.
And on that, we have 3 super chats and 2 chats left. So if you don't send a super chat in now, it is not being in.
Gotta get him in. Gotta get him in, guys.
And those
Gotta get
super
him in.
chats.
Woo-hoo. And we want to thank once again our interlocutors for joining us, all of the community and the super chats and members out there. Mo Bash, I'm going to say this one earlier, so if I get it wrong, you can tell me. Sending in love, he says S-U as lol. S-U as lol.
I don't know what that means, but I do appreciate you sending in the super chats, even to MDD. There's a common misperception that we're competitors. We actually work hand in hand together. And those super chats actually help support James's channel. I know I've talked with him many times. So me and my wife greatly appreciate you sending those in. Even if they're unintelligible and we don't even fucking know what you're talking about, we still appreciate them. You know what I mean?
Indeed. In fact, if we do you wrong, please always tag me at Amy Newman. Once again, it's S-U... maybe it was the S, you asshole. You see, I feel like it was the S I was missing on there. Sending love in for the super chats. And Prestige Worldwide.
Hang on. You got to say it right. Prestige Worldwide. Worldwide. That's how that goes.
And I will say we have one, basically, Andrew, you have one, a pro and a con. So you got it both ways. Hang in there, Andrew. Debating two women is grating.
It's rough, but luckily I have a fantastic woman on my side to help me take these females on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, actually, that's a good point. I have 3 women here who got my back. Right, so I can do these things. I can do these great feats. Right,
and I'm happy to do 3v1s.
As well, the head of the patriarchy should be doing that. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
And I'm going to send love out to Prestige Worldwide, and then Beamsy
Worldwide
for Andrew. Is your approach to all debates with ad hominems and insults your way to discredit yourself and your position?
Hey, he, she, they started it. Okay, they started it. You can't get mad at me because, look, if you want to take it to the mud, we'll take it to the mud. You saw when Ashley came correct and we started having a discussion. It was good discussion, right? I give out exactly what I get. The second I hear some bullshit like, and your husband is the reason for that, you're going to get exactly what you give. You want to go to the mud? Happy to slug it out there. You want to have high tier intellectual philosophy debate? Let's do that too. I love doing all of this shit.
You started it right off the bat. You set the tone. To be
typical woman.
I also like rolling in the mud. I don't mind, Andrew. I've rolled in the mud with you many times, and I do it again, King.
Yeah, I know, but that's because I give you a significant amount of clout because I'm awesome, and you have to grasp the coattails of my awesome Star Wars sweatshirt. Which, by the way, my wife bought this for me, utilizing her own money because she knew that I love Star Wars. Can you believe what a great woman? One day, Radical Coder, such a woman will
come
I could be
so lucky
into your life. Her name will be Steven. It'll be a fantastic experience for you.
Again, the joke is, by the way, the punchline would be that I'm gay, right? Which he thinks
it's not. Well, it's not a joke.
Okay, doubling down on the joke being that I'm gay, which he thinks is bad. And also he thinks being a woman is bad, as we saw from the last super.
Don't think being a woman's bad.
When he says gay, he just means
that's great. I have
gloves.
Great respect for women who have great respect for men.
Yeah, exactly.
More send in love with AED 1799 from Mo Bash. Why do many skinny conservatives pretend to be masculine? Coder is younger and looks way healthier than Andrew. Lol. Looks like he could take him down.
See, let me respond to this first, and then I'll hand it over to my illustrious.
I have to pee so bad.
And brilliant opposition who declined. Remember this, right? Declined. So while it is that you might say that unhealthy perception is he drinks too much and he smokes too much, he's still up for a one hand tied behind his back boxing match. And remember, the opposition fled, not myself. So before you start throwing stones, remember who ran and who didn't. Just saying.
I want to be clear that I never like offered to fight anybody. I never said that I like fighting. I never said that this is a position I want to be in. So I don't know. I don't think it's
I
it
think
really
that's
makes
a
much sense to shame
brilliant
me for not-
response to the super chat.
Thank
I'm
you.
not even shaming you.
Yeah,
I'm
again,
agreeing
like I
with
said,
you.
Like I said, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Also,
But I am a
just-
healthy fighter or a healthy
Just
lover.
for the
excuse me, and
chat,
both.
because I keep seeing this in the chat, and maybe the demographic of the channel is younger. We're fucking old. We have adult
True.
kids. We have kids that can drink legally in bars. Just saying. So if you're expecting us to be 22 and sexy, sorry, we're old.
Hey, I'm 30
So-
and sexy. I'm 30, flirty, and thriving. All right.
Is
No,
that a
you're
bear
none.
mattress?
Hang on.
Is that a
You're-
bear mattress?
you're
behind
none of
you?
those
No, it's not. It's just
things.
white sheets.
You're none of those things. You suck in every way that I
No.
could possibly conceive of. The fact you're even
Okay.
on here, you should be kissing James's ass that he allowed you to come on here at all instead of tinfoil hat conspiring that he did something against you. Just saying.
Again, to the allegations that I'm saying that James is conspiring against me, I never said that. I don't even think I alluded to that. I do
you
think
did.
that a lot of
Yeah,
the
you did.
topics on this, I do think that a lot of topics on this channel are oriented towards a conservative narrative about
Stop
the world. and
fucking
about
whining.
politics.
Stop fucking
It's-
whining and
you
engage
can
more.
call
You're
it
right
whining,
here.
but you're whining
right
about
here,
me
and you could have
allegedly
engaged
whining,
the whole
right?
time, and instead
And
you
I-
spent
I
the
don't-
whole thing whining like
And again,
a bitch.
what I tried to do throughout this debate was go point by point through a lot of the things you guys brought up, and I tried to have interesting dialogues about all of the things that you hammered through, because I think
whine
these are
ass.
meaningful conversations
Whine
and they're
ass.
important conversations to be had. However, I do think it's interesting that it's all this the painting is all men versus women. Men and women are at it. They're all they
think
hate
it's
each other.
interesting.
This
He's
is
mean.
the narrative.
He's
and
mean.
I think it's
James
silly.
is mean. He conspired.
I don't
It's
think
evil.
James. I think James is a fine guy. I like James. You know, I don't hate James. I will debate him
Yeah,
on what I
well, why
said.
don't you send him a thank you email, because you had no business
see.
being here. You're not anywhere near our tier.
Look,
You're
don't
not
get to tell me
anywhere
what
near
business I
our
have being
tier.
here.
Thank
James invited
him.
me. James invited me.
Yeah,
okay?
because
I have plenty of business
you know
being
what?
here.
You know why? You know why he invited you?
Because he knows that I'm
knew-
entertaining
Well, that's it.
and interesting.
Right? But just so you know, you should be thanking him, because there would be no fucking way you would have a public debate with
I think
myself
everybody should thank
and
James
my
for inviting
illustrious
them onto his
wife
program. Sure.
unless he had allowed you to be in here. And instead of you going out of your way to tinfoil hat him, send him an email saying, thank you, James. I appreciate it so much. Do that for me, Cope.
I will thank him, and I will remind him that I want to debate him about the neutrality, the alleged neutrality of the modern day debate channel.
And on that note, I want to thank James. I want to thank our interlocutors and our panel. We have just 3 more questions left. From Brandon: can I be a stay-at-home cat dad and still be based?
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Dad your cat up.
Come on, Ashley. Ashley, tell him no. Come on, do it. Just say no.
If that's what you feel.
You would have to have some type of funding. I mean, for sure. Maybe start an OnlyFans, but not with your cat.
That's pretty funny, actually.
And I'm sending in love to Enslaved by Truth. I saw that. We were waiting. These are our last 2 questions, and I think they're good for our last setting of the tone. Enslaved by Truth for $2. The real true question of the night: who wore it better, Ashley or Rachel? And
Rachel
Metalheads, vote for
has
me.
the Metallica t-shirt and even Radical Coder. Can't
Yeah,
argue
Rachel,
with
I
that.
never, honestly, you look lovely. So I don't
Oh,
know.
thanks. That's
I-
super nice of you. I'm
think
an
we all
old
look great.
lady. I'm old, and so you have to be nice to me. I'm like 42 years old, and I'm on the internet, so you guys have
And
to.
I'm on the internet. It's not
On the
easy.
internet, and I'm old. I'm a boomer, according to my children. So
That's funny.
I'm trying my best. Okay.
And
But
then
we did have a good laugh whenever we first cammed up and saw that we were dressed the
Yeah,
same.
we were like, oh no, we match. What the hell?
it's like you definitely were planning that with text. You were saying exactly. And with
Can I
that,
say?
this
Can
is
I
the
cut in
last
for just
one.
a
Oh no, absolutely.
quick second before you do? That me and Rachel will host a Q&A on our channel. A lot of my chat has been asking as we've been co-streaming. We will, of course, do a Q&A, answer all the super chats. We've always been this way. Sorry to cut in, moderator.
Oh no, in fact, I will actually say if you, any of our interlocutors, or just if you in the audience would like to run an after show, we on Modern Day Divorce support all after shows. Send us over the link. We'll try and get them in the description below, but we will always shill for everyone who's shilling for us.
Did you say Modern Day Divorce?
Modern Day, I think
Oh,
I said
she
modern
said
day
modern-
debate.
I sound like Modern Day Divorce.
Oh,
I'm just
no.
saying. It did. Modern Day Divorce. Yeah, so James, you're gonna have to get on him about that. I'm sorry.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that I will also be continuing to stream. So if anyone wants to come hang out with the cool progressive,
Nobody's
in the
coming
room,
over there. Nobody's coming
maybe
over
not.
there. You
Maybe
suck.
not. But hey,
You're
Hey,
awful.
if you want to, you might
But
want to. You might want to
there
get on
you
the ground floor.
go.
Radical Coder just started streaming about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to the fucking moon. All right.
But
So
there
stay
we
tuned.
have it. We have both after shows for the affirmative and the negative side. So if you are looking for even more juicy debate on this topic, go find those after shows. However, this is the last question from Day JB, and I will take, we'll go everyone to have their turn at the answer. What are traditional masculine values exactly?
Okay, I'll take that one. I'll tell you what I think they are. So traditional masculinity, and this is important to me because I think the word patriarchy has been abused. I think it's been turned into something it's not. And traditionally, what masculinity was more like the chivalric code, where men have maximum responsibility. They were expected to give their lives for their family and for their country, the way that Christ was expected to give his life for the church. Men are supposed to be the protectors and the providers. They are supposed to be virtuous. If you look at like the traditional Christian virtues, either through the Orthodox or the Catholic Church, which pretty much agree on what, traditional virtues would be, that's what masculinity was supposed to be. It was supposed to be about self-sacrifice, protecting those weaker than you, defending those weaker than you, defending your family and your country. That's what traditional masculinity was supposed to be about.
To me, I would agree with Rachel that it's about protecting your family and protecting your country. That's a huge one to me. If and when, I mean, I haven't, been, but when I was married, I very much so missed the feeling of feeling protected and safe, valued, loved. Those are important too. But protection and safety is something that I didn't even realize that I had until it was gone. And so I definitely understand the value of that more so now that it's gone. I hate to say it, but it's true, than I did before. Like it didn't matter what, it's almost like as a woman, it's almost like when you lived at home with your father or your mother, and you felt safe. You felt like even if X, Y, or Z happens, I have someone everything's gonna be okay. Like I don't have to worry about keeping it all together, because my husband will somehow make sure everything's okay. And that is probably what I guess I would define if I'm looking at like a husband, that's what I miss. That's definitely masculine to me.
Sure. I mean, I largely agree with a lot of these characteristics of masculinity, being able to provide, being able to support, and generally being just able to make the people around you feel good, safe, and understood. And I think a lot of these things are not manifested by a lot of men. A lot of these things are. And I think that a lot of the ways that these things manifest are unfortunately really harmful to men and the people around them. And a lot of men who don't live up to these things are really shamed in a lot of ways that are unfortunate, and that we should be treating our men better and our women better. So masculinity is it's not a bad thing. No one, even people who say like toxic masculinity, no one's talking about masculinity as a whole. I just want that to be very clear because so many people get this so skewed. They're talking about the ways in which masculinity manifests into toxic aspects that harm men and the people around them. And I think people should engage with that more because it's kind of a cowardly not to just kind of wipe off people talking about toxic masculinity as if they hate masculinity. I think this is a very beta way of engaging with the topic.
And a caveat to that, I wish that the family unit would raise more traditionally masculine boys. And I think that that's really hard.
Yes. So fucking base. Listen.
I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think that another thing that's going on right now with the modern day feminist movement is that we are not raising traditional men, you know, and that scares me for the future too. It's sad, but that's all I had to say about that.
So,
Sorry.
Holy shit, Ashley turned out to be based.
Yeah,
and
so can
red-pilled
I-
and
can I-
awesome.
Can I respond to
Yes,
So,
to
like,
Fact,
honestly,
Andrew?
though, honestly, I want to give her a lot of credit for being so
well,
honest.
actually, hang on. Let me respond. Usually, I would tie this in and say that all of you are wrong because none of you are speaking to virtue with masculine traits, and without virtue, there is no masculine trait. But I wanted to read you just very briefly, Ashley, for my response time. Some of the comments from my chat. Holy shit, Ashley's based. Pray for Ashley. We had Ashley wrong. Ashley's totally correct. Ashley does want to see the best for men. Ashley, some more prayers for you. Here's more prayers, Ashley. Ashley, the Christians have you. Come over to our side. We're all about the network. We're all about helping. And Ashley, you have proven yourself as being fucking based and epic at the end of this. We have changed your mind, and we're so happy, Ashley.
Sorry, that got to me.
Aw.
Nice, thank you.